Welcome to the Knowledge Entrepreneurs Show, where we celebrate the innovators driving change in the education industry. At Edison OS, we've worked with over 500 knowledge entrepreneurs to turn their edtech ideas into profitable businesses.
I had a
You,
I had a beard. I had a beard that was hiding my face, so I had to go get it.
okay.
Being into music and teaching, usually nobody minds. Nobody
Yeah,
expects you
really, yeah.
to
In fact,
be, be looking pitch. As long as you're professional, it's the job
exactly.
is
You look
done.
quite sharp for a musician.
Well, since you said it's going to be about
yeah.
business, so I thought, well,
Exactly, yeah. So if people are watching this, this is how an artist plus a businessman or an entrepreneur looked in 2023.
yes,
Okay.
I should have gotten a before picture then for you too.
I'm sure you'll have one. I'll request you to kind of pull up and share it one on WhatsApp or something. Um, So, Jack, before I begin, first of all, thank you very much for accepting the invitation to be a guest on this little
Thank
show that we're doing. It's a show in its very nascent stages. We just started, and we're looking to distribute it as far and wide as we can. And as I was telling, just before we started this off, I'd just like to reiterate, just for the sake of our listeners, that this podcast is purpose of this is to understand what it takes to run a knowledge entrepreneurship business. It's not about teaching, but it's how do you get your students, how do you grow your business, how do you make a living out of it, is it easy, what are the ups and downs. When we kind of talk about these things, people out there who are listening can probably realize if that is their strength or weakness, and if it can help them decide, okay, they can give it a try or not. I think that's the whole purpose of this podcast. And with that being said, let's get started. Jack, here's my first question. It's a very open-ended personal question. I just want to, this question is mainly to help you connect with the audience and, even me, to get to know more about you, about, your journey so far. And when you tell about how you run your business, it will have so much more context when you answer this question. So, Jack, if you can walk us through, you can go back as much as you want from your childhood, probably. How was your growing up, and what's your journey like? How did you come to this position where you're running Performance Collective, which is a music academy?
Thank you, Jagmohan and Teach Edison, for having me over. It's a pleasure,
Our pleasure.
and both to be here and to have been working with you. So it's been a wonderful experience so far. Music kind of happened to me in my teenage. Before that, I was mostly into sports, and way back in school, I kind of from high school, I started playing when I was 13, 14, the guitar on my own, and I kind of knew that music is what I wanted to do with my life. Though there wasn't a lot of clarity on what I would do, but I love playing music, and compared to what I could see my colleagues who wanted to, I mean, my not colleagues, my batchmates who wanted to, do MBA and IIT, and everybody was trying for IIM, and I was thinking, I want to play music, and how am I going to make this work as a living for me? So obviously at that age you don't think too much. You just at least I knew my direction at that point. But being doing things for myself was something that had been there quite early on. Kind of in my family, we had a lot of people who were essentially in different teachers, salaried, and I had my one uncle who was a businessman, and I always looked at him and kind of was enamored by him. So I liked that idea of making something of your own. So they kind of came together at some point in my life, and so I post my school, I started both teaching home to home lessons. So I was studying as well, music more further, because till then, at that point, it was mostly self-taught, and I had to get myself a good level of experience before even I thought what I would do. But since I had already been playing quite a bit, I started home to home teaching as a means to make some money while I myself studied further. And I was studying at the Delhi School of Music, and I specialized in classical guitar playing there, though contemporary music was as such, my love. but I fell in love with classical music and continued playing both. And so my first, kind of entry into this entrepreneurship was actually being self-employed, going house to house teaching. And so the first money I used to make from teaching was, I think, 150 rupees a class. This was 1999, probably.
Wow. Okay.
Right. So and subsequently I got a faculty position at Delhi School of Music
Okay.
by the time I was 19 years old.
Wow.
And I
Okay.
started working freelance at
Okay.
quite a few private schools, as well as my mainstay was, of course, Delhi School of Music,
Right.
because that's where I both studied and had become faculty at that point.
Right.
So for about 5 years, I kind of both the experience of going home to home teaching with public schools. So I didn't pick up a permanent position anywhere. I was a visiting faculty, so quite literally I was working 7 hours, and at that age you have the strength and the drive to be working 10-hour days, 7 days a week. So
Yeah.
I mean, now when I look back, it looks like what I couldn't possibly do half of that, but well,
Right.
at that time it seemed like the natural thing to do.
Right.
So five years, I was teaching around in the industry, and I permanently had, why couldn't this be done better, why can't this be done better, and me always picking conversations with management to change things, which invariably never happened at that point. And I thought, heck, somewhere in 2003 I met another piano player, young piano player my age, who held similar beliefs, and we happened to bump into each other at Delhi School of Music. And we kind of got talking and said, why don't we open a school, where we do things the way we want to do it.
Right.
So that pretty much sparked. So that we then started discussing it further. We had to raise obviously some amount of capital. We had literally no knowledge base in running business. Maybe it was a good thing, maybe it was a bad thing. The good thing is that you don't let things fluster you easily. You go in with full gusto.
Right.
So I borrowed at that point, which probably was a large amount of money, 1.5 lakhs,
Okay.
and so did my partner at that point. And we rented a small shop in where the school is. It's all within 100 meters in the market. We rented a shop and started teaching, but we kept our day jobs, of course,
Okay.
because finally the business needed working
Yeah.
capital
Yeah.
to continue growing. And so in 2003 it was a partnership between two of us. And the business, from the business perspective, it just exploded.
Okay.
While we had thought that of course we should be doing things differently, this is not enough, we didn't realize that the market was going to resonate with it so well.
Right.
And we had opened this branch in DLF phase 4 in Gurgaon. Delhi, in any case, was outside our budget to be able to open or rent a premise at that point. And we knew Gurgaon as a good place where I think similar to Whitefield in Bangalore, where the new generation were shifting
Yeah.
in, and the baby boom was happening. So it kind of hit, and that first 4 years was a rapid amount of growth.
Okay.
And I think we were not ready for it. We
Okay.
were nowhere ready for, because little did we realize that it's like a baby. Once it starts growing, it needs even more money,
Right.
and it's even more time, and it needs even more money, and it needs even more time. It's just like catching the tiger's tail.
Right.
So we didn't have, but of course, that 5 years of working for others and kind of meant that at least from an academic perspective, we kind of had a good amount of experience, to know what needs to be there and what. But yes, it was quite a learning experience those first 5 years. We went from a small room to a 5 classroom building, to a 12 classroom building, to 3 branches, all within a period of 4 years.
Wow. Okay. quite a growth, that Jack. Jack, a lot of interesting things, but I'd like to start off with you were just 19 when you were offered a faculty position at Delhi School of Music.
Yes, that's correct.
Isn't that a little young? I mean, you were still studying, but then but you were a visiting faculty, not a permanent role.
Uh, no, in the sense that Delhi School of Music also had, you could pick them number. In fact, it was hard to get a day there. Let me be more
Okay.
honest. So it's not that. So the structure was that you kind of decided. I mean, based on what they offered,
Okay.
you could go in a certain number of days, which you had to then reserve for
Okay.
them.
Okay.
So I was doing 2 days there,
Okay.
which my teacher recommended me for.
Okay.
So that soon grew to 3 days,
Got
and
it. Is this a government
yes.
organization, the Delhi School of Music?
No, it happens to be, it's a private trust which was set up by the German ambassador
Oh
and
wow. Okay. Cool.
Rajiv Gandhi's mother at that
Got
point. So one of their houses in Chanakyapuri was, given for this project, which is in the smack in the middle of the diplomatic enclave, a huge
Got
compound.
it.
So that house was converted into what you know as Delhi
Okay.
School of Music. So it's not a private
Okay.
entity, but it's a private trust, and it's Delhi's oldest music school. I think they've crossed 50 years now.
Got it. Wow. And Jack, so you, after your 10th standard, in India, 10th standard is a very important milestone. And then, there are 2 years of your pre-university, or 11th and 12th.
Yes.
So what was your
Yes.
11th and 12th like? What was the conversation at home like? I mean, it was just a smooth thing. There was not a problem about you focusing on music full time and stuff.
Though my parents supported my music, my dad bought me a guitar and an electric guitar, but they did not believe that music would make enough money to put bread and butter on the
Right.
table. So when I decided after 12th not to go through with it, yes, they were intensely worried.
Okay.
But like I said, when I later decided to go into it, my dad only lent me the money to
Okay, the 1.5 lakhs
the
that you
initial
spoke about.
phase. So yes. But were they worried? Yes.
Okay.
Yes, they were worried as
Okay.
hell, and
Great.
that it wasn't really. In my 12th, I had done commerce with
Okay.
maths, which was pretty much the only choice in us. There were two choices: either you took medical,
Right.
and in science, either you took medical or non-medical, and in commerce, you took with maths or without maths. So I kind of took with maths.
Okay. And
So that's what I
after your
did my
12th, you went
graduation.
to Delhi Music School.
Yes. I worked for a short time as a salesman for Citibank and Nike, an interim period of a year, earning some money, and then
After your 12th?
that money yes, immediately after my 12th.
Oh, okay. What was the idea behind taking up a job after your 12th, Jack?
It was to kind of, since I had intended not to go to a regular college, I wanted to, get some money together before I, went and asked my father to, support me through it. So I wanted to show him that I am in this.
Some commitment from your side to kind of, it's like paying a small amount of down payment to buy these days,
Yes.
Got it.
Yes.
Got it. Interesting.
Yes, that I'm dead serious about this.
Yeah. To show that commitment from your side. Yeah, that you're dead serious about this.
Yes.
Great. And, another thing that was striking me through the story that you were telling is that yours didn't come across like a typical musician story, because I mean, I may be wrong, but, from whatever we've seen in popular culture, a musician's journey is something like, they try to, be in a band when they are studying. And then, for you must have seen the movie Rock On.
I didn't see the movie, but some of my friends did play in it.
Oh, okay. Got it.
Yeah.
So I was, kind of imagining, okay, you would have probably, had a band, and you might have tried your luck at becoming a musician, like release music, produce and stuff like that. And then you would have, but then um, in your story, right, there seems to be this weird clarity. I'm sorry, I'm saying it's weird, But there is a very straight line sort of a journey that you told. You finished and then you worked as a faculty. You were also very much in tune with the practical aspect of life while you were pursuing music, right? So how did it come about? I mean, did you undergo something and you decided, no, you know what, practically looking at it is very important? Or were you not inclined towards producing music? Were you clear about you just wanting to teach?
In school, I had been part of bands playing contemporary music.
Okay.
And through this, probably I oversimplified it. I didn't speak about, so I enjoyed playing music. I enjoyed playing music with others also periodically. And during my time at Delhi School of Music, I kind of completely, went from being a hardcore rock music
Right.
to a classical music,
Okay.
So I fell in love with classical music, and classical guitar per se is played alone. It's like a piano.
Okay.
Right. So in my experiences with, performing, I kind of realized that I wasn't particularly, it didn't bring me great joy to be performing for people.
Okay. Interesting.
To be honest.
Okay.
Right. So for me, for playing for myself and being able to be with music was great.
Right.
But it didn't get me the kind of enjoyment that I saw in most other musicians. Right. I enjoyed teaching, right. Yes. So that's how I kind of, went, because I knew that I didn't want to be in a 9 to 5 where the only reason I'm working is to get a paycheck at the end of the day, because I knew that this is something I would fail at doing properly.
Right.
Because I tried and realized that if my heart wasn't in it, I never gave it its due,
right.
Whatever, I made up excuses for myself to not do a great job at it. So, and with classical music per se, it didn't have an audience in Delhi. Because I was used to going to see international classical guitarists playing here.
Right.
For whom probably, the 100-pound tickets, and here, sponsored by XYZ lying empty.
Right.
So, looking at, through this process of looking at, I did performances as well. I did play solo. It didn't give me that kind of joy. And when I looked at the flip side of, how artists were making money, it was finally not playing the kind of music they like to play. Right? Because you're going to do a corporate gig, you're going to do a wedding gig, or you're going to do... Right? So when I measured all of that together, I was very happy teaching.
Got it.
I liked, that, the joy it gave me being able to teach. Right. And I'm still in touch with music and I'm playing, and performing wasn't, it didn't seem to me after a while like a great, something that I really,
Got it, Jack. Yeah.
Look forward to as a day-to-day lifestyle, it just didn't.
Got it.
Because finally, if I had to compromise on the kind of music I played as well, it just didn't make any sense of it at all.
Might as well, go do anything else. Right.
Yeah.
Great. Jack, also, was there a point, when you had to sit down and, or was it like, did you always know that you were not interested in performing for others, or did you give it a try and then realize through experience?
No. I gave it a try and realized it through experience.
Got it.
I did play quite a few shows.
Got it.
In different capacities.
Got it. Jack, just, just for my, out of curiosity, let's say, I mean, we Indians, for us, performance means, at least for me, I would like to talk on behalf of myself. I see, probably some singers, some movie singers that I have exposure to, and then, that I'm exposed to, and then, some cricketers. Cricket is something that I see, and India is a cricket watching nation in terms of volume. And then, the sports people involved in this sport and the musicians involved, I've always, heard them when they talk, right? In interviews or be it anything, they say that the biggest high or the biggest kick that they get is from the applause or the response that they get from the audience. And that's the core reason why they are in that domain, and that's the reason they perform, play a sport. That's what keeps them motivated. Now, when when I'm listening to you, it's very interesting that you don't feel that way and you feel otherwise. I would like to, just get into that thought process. Like, what exactly, what is different here? Could you just walk us through that thing? If at all, you realized it in that detail.
Yes, because I realized that the people I played with, there
Mm.
was a very big difference between how I felt, you know,
Right. Right.
because even in the teaching field, I was with people who were also teaching and also, doing shows.
Right.
I somehow it didn't give me that high, and I know
Mm.
exactly what you mean, right?
Right.
And so I realized that the fundamental difference was that for him, he's playing jazz. That's what he's most interested in. But for him, even going and playing something else,
Right.
right, gave him a high.
Right.
For me, it wasn't that, it didn't give me that high, to be honest. Had the audience, I mean, sorry to say it, somehow it ended up with, for me, realizing that for me the joy with music wasn't necessarily associated with
The outside
the
response.
applause or the audience at all.
Interesting. No, no, no. I mean,
Yes.
you don't. No, it's not about why. It's just to understand that there are people
Mm.
like this also, because it's easy to relate. And then today in the world of social media, the validation comes through likes and comments and engagement and stuff like that, right? And when there is a person who
Mm.
can easily have access to all those things, but then chooses otherwise, I was just a little curious as to what exactly how your mind was working, and I was
The access
yeah,
to be honest, the access is not that easy. It's a tough life being a musician. I mean, a performing musician.
right.
You get a new set of things to learn that you may or may not want to learn. You have
Mm,
to figure out how to practice, get everybody together, spend nights practicing, then go through the rigmarole of going for the show, waiting around, doing the show, finishing at midnight,
right.
coming back, and then some guy having to run behind the event guy for the money to come,
Right.
and and it's a very I mean, in season you get, you know 20 shows, and then suddenly
It's
you
right.
don't have any shows for a
Right.
while. So it is a very hard life
Got it, Jack. I
in
mean,
its
thank
own
you
way.
for breaking it down.
Because
Yeah.
for us, as showbiz, I mean, and that's what we musicians are, finally performing. We are showbiz,
Right.
right?
Right. Right. Yes.
At the
Yes.
end of the
Yes.
day, so you will not see any of that, and
Correct.
if I was a performing musician, I would not have said any of this, probably, other than maybe passing references to it. But
Correct.
the reality is that.
Got it, Jack. So, Jack, so what is your thing? Okay, you teach, right? You teach. You said that you also enjoy teaching, and it also meets your financial
Yes,
requirements for that is needed for a living.
yes.
What about how do you quench your thirst for, let's say, you're passionate about music, that's why you're here. So what is it that you do that also gets sorted via teaching, or is there anything you sit by yourself and you play on a weekly basis, or how does that go?
I sit by myself and play as often as I can.
Okay, got it.
The
And do you
second
have
high
your
I get
private
is from actually seeing.
yeah, sorry, please continue. The second high.
Sorry. The second high I get is from actually seeing. I mean, because now I've been teaching for 25 years.
Right.
Seeing somebody through and seeing them grow from, you know, join you and see them grow all the way to become being a good,
Right.
music player. That gives me a high as well.
Got it, Jack. Great. So you've been teaching from what what information I got from your internet presence. You've been teaching now for about 17 years. Am I correct? Roundabout
I personally have been teaching for 25
25
years
years.
now,
Okay.
almost.
Performance Collective is about 17
25
years old.
years. Performers Collective is now 20. You must have seen that 17 couple of years back, probably posted.
Maybe.
The Performers Collective was set up in 2003.
Got it. Okay. And this is where you had a co-founder with you, and then you started off at a small shop.
Yes,
Got
yes.
it. Um,
It was this partnership initially. In 2005, we parted ways.
okay.
And I mean, by then we had made it a private limited company as well.
Mm-hmm.
So and we had 3 branches. So by 2005, 2008,
Mm-hmm.
we had serious differences on how to grow or how to take what we did forward.
Right.
He was very impressed and convinced about the franchisee method of growth, and I was not at all keen.
Okay.
And it became a it became big enough that we had to
Part ways.
finally split ways.
You had to agree to disagree. And,
so I bought out the remaining shares and gave one of the branches as in the part of the settlement process.
Okay.
So at that point, in 2008, it was valued at about 1 CR.
Wow. Okay.
The business at that point. I mean, our CAs did the valuation at that point.
Mm-hmm.
And so one branch and whatever, I had to pay to.
Got it. However you had
basically buy
split
over
in that
the remaining
percentage.
share. Yeah.
Got it.
So at that, and then we had two branches for the longest time, and one of them shut down during COVID.
Okay.
Which is the one we had rented in South Delhi.
Okay.
So now we work out of our own premises, which where we started, it's within 100 meters of there. So that's a building we have of our own, 4 floors, 8,000 square feet, 15 classrooms we have. And we teach all Western contemporary and Western, classical music.
Amazing. Jack, usually, this question about, did you have a co-founder and are they still traveling with you on this journey? All these things come, towards the end of the thing. But then, here, given that it's come up now, I'd like to, ask a few questions surrounding this. Because today, when entrepreneurs start a business, it is about having co-founders also. Not many of them start off solo. And then, everything, solopreneurship has its own pros and cons, and having partners and co-founders has its own pros and cons. And you started Performance Collective in 2001? 2003. And then you parted ways in 2008. 2008. That was like for 5 years you ran it together. Right?
Yes.
2008 is when you parted ways, but still, you managed to run the show together for 5 years, during which you said, you saw some rapid growth. And you also said that you started off as a small shop that is near the Delhi School of Music itself. Am I correct?
No. This is in Gurgaon.
This is in
Delhi School of Music is in Delhi.
Got it. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Got it. So now when you say small shop, what was the business model? Were you going to teach or were you selling musical instruments?
No, we were just teaching. It has always been purely a school.
Okay. Yes. And when you started off, right, with the small shop, whatever you're talking about, how many students could it accommodate?
It could accommodate, we just could manage. It was like if you've seen some of these shops that have 2 levels, it's like a half a floor extra.
Right, like a mezzanine
in
floor.
One classroom
right,
there.
Right.
Like a mezzanine floor. So we crammed one classroom there and one below.
Okay.
And the front 4 feet was like our reception.
Okay.
So where one person could sit. So there were 2 classrooms. So effectively, with 2 teachers, the max you could go is 40, 50.
40, 50 students?
Not at the same time, of course. Because see, in instrumental training, we are not seeing them every day. We are seeing them once or twice a week.
Got it.
For 40 minutes to an hour, depending on.
Okay. And it was 1-to-1 classes?
1-to-1. At that point, we had 1-to-1 and group lessons as well.
Okay, got it. And this partner of yours, he was a pianist, right?
Yes.
Okay, got it. And you taught both guitar and piano?
Guitar and piano, yes.
Okay. Now, I think for guitar classes, students would bring their own guitars. For piano also, students would bring their own piano?
No, we would have pianos and keyboards at the campus. Okay. We had guitars as well, but the reason why we asked students to get their guitars is more to do with making sure that they're in tune and, each guitar has a slightly different feel.
Right.
So all of those. And we also wanted to make sure that they have an instrument. They have an instrument at home.
Got it.
Because sometimes people try to learn things without having an instrument and it never reaches anywhere,
Oh my God. Okay. Unbelievable.
Yeah. I still get this question, by the way. You know what? We'll invest in the instrument.
Okay.
Once we see whether the child is interested or not. And a month or 2. And I'm like, that's never going to happen, unfortunately.
This is cracking me up, seriously. This is Unbelievable. Okay. Oh my God. Okay.
Uh,
Okay. Great. Um. Okay. I lost all my train of thought because of this particular thing.
okay.
People learning music or guitar without having a guitar has to be some of the most
Yes.
interesting things that I've come across of it. Okay, so Jack, when you started off this, what was your student acquisition strategy? I mean, did you print pamphlets or was it word of mouth?
We we used to print pamphlets and put it in the morning papers. So
Okay.
we used to go at 3 a.m. where the paper distributions happen and get
Mm, right.
pamphlets designed every month and put it.
Okay.
But going ahead gradually, we also soon realized that the word of mouth plays a huge impact into our growth,
Right. Right.
because we also realized that Gurgaon was a new place, new people are coming. So at that point, it was still, pamphlets kind of did a way of reaching out to people and letting them know you're there.
Right.
But always through the years, I've noticed that the word of mouth is is a very strong contributor to our growth.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
invariably, people who come in through even advertisements, or always have some point of reference. They know somebody who's advised them as well that that's the place to go.
Right. Got it. And Jack, a few questions on this, right? First of all, I want to like understand. You said you started off as a rock person, and then you moved on to traditional guitar or classical guitar. I'm sorry,
Western classical,
Western
Western
classical,
classical guitar. Yeah.
and then you also had your suggestions or the changes that you wanted Delhi School of Music to kind of implement, but then that also led to you starting up with your partner so that you could have your ideas implemented and run it the way you want. So you must have had some differences between how things were going on and then how you wanted to take it forward. Now my question is, how many people you know were joining guitar classes back then? What was the percentage of people who would just come to just a casual thing, just to impress people, just to have another hobby, versus how many people were like taking it seriously just like you did? Did that play a role in how you taught and how your business shaped up, especially in this
Uh,
music domain, right? Because
there is,
uh,
yeah, there are very few, it's a very small percentage of people who come to us who are looking to become professionals, who,
right,
are looking at a career in music. So
right,
typically what tends to happen is, you come thinking, okay, I'm going to learn some, but we were very clear that if you're coming to learn with us, one of the criteria is that we are not just going to be teaching you 3 4 songs.
right,
We're going to be teaching you how to do music
right,
properly, which is, focusing on your technique, your musical skills. So we'll get you to the point where you can play as many songs as you
right,
like, because you understand and you have good technique, you understand the underpinning things that work
right.
to it. So so from that point, we got students who wanted
Hmm.
to learn initially, maybe to a hobby level, but then, like all things, once you achieve a certain amount of
Hmm.
success, and you're doing well, you want to do a little bit
Right,
more. So while they, most of them didn't go on to become
right.
musicians, but most of them ended up, crossing into the amateur
Hmm.
stage. A lot of even reached the pre-professional level stage, and then carried on with their lives doing many things. But we have 30% of our faculty has come from here,
Okay,
from our own
got
school.
it. Interesting. Um, okay, was that ever a concern for you, Jack? Because the reason I'm asking you this question is you come across as a person who's
Hmm.
very you have your own way about things. For example, you didn't want to perform due to whatever reasons and all this. Taking all these things into consideration, I was thinking, uh, was it ever a concern for you that, hey, you know what, these are not the students I want to be teaching, man, who's just coming to just learn it for a few months and then leave it and go. I want to like teach serious students. uh, was this ever a point of concern for you?
No, no. I On the contrary, I thought that, as a teacher, your job is to help
Mm.
people achieve where they want to
Right.
go
Right.
first, and in that process open their eyes a little more to what else they could do, because that, even though I wanted to become a
Right.
professional, the process of my teacher teaching me, finally that's what it did to me,
Right. Right.
opened my eyes to a lot more of things than I ever could have probably learned on my own,
Got it.
you know
You mean to say that you strived more to become that teacher? If somebody is even coming very casually, you explored a space where you could kind of inspire them to go a little bit more. That's what you're trying to say. Am I correct? Yeah,
yes,
interesting. The reason I
yes,
asked you
yes,
this.
but yes.
Yeah, go on. You were about to say something.
Yeah, so no, I was just listening to
Got
you.
it. The reason I asked you this question was, a couple of similar situations that I had in my previous podcasts where, there was this, because in your case, it is the students, who just came to learn a few songs. Maybe you're just to impress somebody. And then, in the past, there were other trainers and teachers, who didn't have the 90% of the audience's attention to them. And then, most of the responses could have been like, you know what, I'm here to contribute something and students are not interested, I'm not going to do it. That is one attitude. But there is this other attitude, where teachers take it upon themselves, and act like it is our responsibility to kind of bring them, get them more interested. This is kind of been a recurring theme among a few people. And the reason I'm stressing on this point and I'm bringing this point is to all the people that are listening to this show. There are a lot of trainers and teachers and stuff. And, if they are coming across students where they think students are not interested, it is also partly to do with the kind of teacher that they are. So this is the point, I was trying to bring out. And that's exactly what you also said. And that's why, I'm just repeating this. Great. Jack, and through this,
But
right?
another
Yeah.
thing, as a teacher and as a school, what we make sure is upfront,
Hmm.
we're very clear about the effort and time that is required from them. Because see,
Right.
learning music is not merely a mental
Right.
activity,
Right.
right? It is kind of like a mix of sports and a theoretical subject
Right.
together. If you don't have the time to practice every day, you're not going to succeed.
Right.
If you don't have the time to be regular with your classes, you're not going to
Right.
succeed. If you're not going to give it a year effort
Right.
without expecting great shakes in
Right.
return, you're not going to succeed. So, we kind of culled a little bit right there. So
Mm.
that somebody who thought, I have an anniversary coming up, I'm going to impress my wife by playing a
Right.
song, kind of immediately knew that we were the wrong guys for you.
Right. Right. Got it. Yeah. Yeah. That's a good balance as well. You don't have to go all out again, taking it upon yourself. I think it's a good balance to have between culling some of them at an earlier point, as well as, going to a stage where, you also grow as a teacher. And then, because of the teacher that you are, you see people probably going a step ahead than they would have initially planned to do. So great. And Jack, uh, at this point, let's say all this journey that you're talking about, were there with your co-founder, right? My whole point of thing was, the relationship between two partners. Did you have any frequent disagreements on how you wanted to run the business, or teaching methodologies, or accepting some students and not accepting students, on all these points?
By and large, academically, we were, for the time we were together, we were pretty much more or less along the same lines.
Okay.
But once we parted ways, I mean, there has been quite a difference in, I think it's him growing as well, me growing as well, as, because when I initially started the school, I really did not think of
Right.
segment, you know, right? Because I thought more like a teacher,
Hmm.
right? And as you start to do this, and this, this small thing becomes a big, animal to manage, different aspects of it. So it took me a while to realize that we had to kind of decide on where we wanted to be
Okay.
as a
Okay.
service, right? We had to find a place, right? And we were trying to be everything.
Right. Right.
And when you try to be everything, what happens is you start being mediocre at most things. right? And I saw that point approaching,
Right.
And I could clearly see that, somewhere I had to draw a line on, because see, you can't have something great quality at a very low price. It usually doesn't
Right.
work out,
Right.
right? Of course, if you can, and that's a breakthrough thing in your industry. But by and large, if you go to any industry, why some things cost more, there is a reason why,
Right.
right? Because if it's not, that reason is not there, that will stop to exist. Because why will I pay more money for something that's not providing me greater
Right.
value,
Right.
right? And as a school, we realized we are pretty much, it's all we have is finally our reputation,
Right.
which is that, when you come here and when you leave here, is there a measurable difference in what you came to achieve and what you left
Right.
with, right? And so, the quality of the faculty you have, the kind of class structure that you keep, right? The kind of activities around the learning that you organize, like concerts, opportunities to play together, all of this, has a cost attached to
Right.
it. I mean, that was one of the, like, I stopped doing group lessons for practical lessons altogether, though it was financially much more, you
Profitable.
know, lucrative. Yes, because you can handle multiple children
Right.
together, right? So your teaching cost is not, going 5 times up if you have
Right.
5 students in a class. Neither is your infrastructure going 5 times up. Neither is your marketing going 5 times up,
Right.
right? And the customer is getting something much, much more affordable.
Right.
And therefore your potential market size increases.
Right.
But I noticed that in our kind of
Right.
teaching, right, where students are coming once a week, right, the homogeneity disappears very soon. Some are going fast, some are going slow, some are missing classes. So essentially what ends up happening is the quick and the fast get something from it, the slow get left behind, or the teachers trying to make a compromise between all of that.
Right.
So having personally seen it experience, we realized that one-to-one lessons, when it succeeds much higher
Right.
than
Group
a group.
session.
So we kind of eliminated the group lesson format altogether, because I didn't see any other reason to keep it other than the economics of it.
Got it.
And because in a group, chances of, one out of the five or two out of the five succeeding were good, and the rest were not, which also meant that our reputation is at stake
Right.
here,
Right.
right? Because for the two who succeeded, three didn't.
Only there's the majority who are not succeeding, only the minority succeeding, and then that is, got it. So you mean to say this was one major point of disagreement between you and your partner?
No, this was not this. I meant in terms of, how at that point, apart from the his strategy of he wanted to go, he had inquiries, people asking for franchiseship, and I was dead against
Right.
it. So that was pretty much the primary reason why we parted ways.
Got it.
Otherwise we had a fairly good, we had a fairly
You
good,
were,
and I think that was, I mean, that's why we succeeded so well, because we could, at the end of the day, after the business shut down, we'd be sitting and discussing things and implementing them the next day on,
got it.
and we never had any disagreements that were that big that it affected.
Got it, Jack.
We always found a way to make it work.
Got it. Jack, this is, in the journey, but, when you came together, when you decided that you're going to partner up to do this thing, how long did it take for you to decide you're going to do this? And what were the angles in which you gave it a thought?
I think within 3 months of us meeting, we had decided,
Okay.
taken a call.
Okay.
And within 3 months, the school was up and running.
Okay. Got it. 6
So
months.
within 6 months from the point when within 6 months from our first conversation,
Got it.
the school had opened.
Got it. Was it, just an intuitive decision? Was it, your intuition saying that, yeah, I could partner up? Or did you do a very strategic analysis of, can I partner or not? If yes, what were those,
Intuitive.
intuitive? Okay.
Intuitive.
But
We were very young and new to it both,
got it.
So
Looking back, would you say, would you have any suggestions, if two people are looking to partner up, would you have any things that you would advise? Okay, look for these things. Or what is a key thing that you'd advise for people to look for before getting into a partnership?
uh, I mean, the first thing I look for in a person is integrity in all,
Right.
And that's usually my first, because that's the first driver, because you when you're on in the trenches, right, trust is what
Yeah.
keeps you
Yeah.
going, because life gets difficult. Being an entrepreneur is probably one of the hardest things I've done. It's but it's also been enjoyable because you get to see so many different
Right.
sides of, from the front desk to to marketing to accounting, because at least in our size we didn't have the money to be hiring
Got it.
people. We couldn't afford professionals per se, so all we could do was read up as much as we could, try things, right, see where it succeeded, and outsource where we knew that we needed real expertise, and DIY was not going to work out. Accounting was one of them, right? So right up front we started making sure that our accounts were audited and done by an external chartered accounting
Right.
agency.
Got it. So you're saying, the only thing that you would suggest or you would look for is integrity in a person, especially because
I mean, I'm looking at from the point of view that I was 23 at that
right.
point. So I wonder whether I mean, of course, now it would be a completely different, right?
Right.
I would be looking at integrity, their historical, and really looking at whether we share the same kind of vision down to detail.
Right.
Right? Not just overall, but down to detail. But when I started out, I really didn't know that the whole entrepreneurship journey was going to be so colorful and so exciting, and that I would be learning so much through that itself. Right? I mean, rest everything aside, the how an organization is set up, how you make it work, how you run it, how you look at the different stakeholders, and how you make sure that everybody is in it happily, So I had absolutely no clue, so it was all on the fly. So now probably I would look at a lot more at the person very, very, and see whether our mindset matches in terms of, because currently for me, I mean, from the point I started really thinking strategically about our place in this and what is it that the school actually wants to do more carefully, is that I want, I mean, what Performers Collective I want to do and what we strive to do is maintain a very high level of integrity to what the teaching that we do.
Right.
Which means that if we think something is not going to work, we will not do it.
Got it.
Irrespective of money.
Right.
Because we want to make sure that we are known as people who are above board when it comes to teaching you, right? Because when you come to teach, you're at your expose most. You've come with very little knowledge about something, and you've come to gain knowledge on it, and trust is really important. So, and I like to think in the last decade it's worked really well for us. While our numbers have went down from, we were handling 450 students at one point.
That was your peak?
Yeah, that was our peak.
Okay.
And I mean, it was around then that I looked at the problems and realized that we really needed to focus on what we wanted to be, because at 450 we were making money, but I felt that we were not doing justice to the quality of our output.
Right.
I mean, how many people were we succeeding with? And I looked into it, tried to see, is it a teaching issue? Is it a class structure issue? What are the, what all got in the way of So, and from then on, we kind of changed, focused on the fact that first we look at how we can deliver a great
Right.
service. Then we look at how can we reduce the price
Right.
to get more
Right.
people. But nothing gets, culled from the quality part to make us more affordable.
Got it. So,
So we came down the numbers, we came down, but I mean, from a point of view of success rates, I think, doubled our success rate.
right.
And I think today we have a much better, reputation in the market.
Got it.
And where we are, I think we are some, we people aspire to be, rather than, just another one of the choices.
Got it, Jack. Jack, so you spoke about, when you were at 450, you had to look at how many were succeeding. And then, you said that the success rate is double now. I mean, how do you define success for your students?
We look at where they join, what level. So
Okay.
typically we benchmark, I mean, whether you're giving exams or not, since India doesn't have a policy level framework for recognizing Western music, development. Like, let's say if you're sending your child to study maths,
Right.
A year down the line, you'd want to know, like, I mean, what is being covered, how much does the child know, right? So we have that CBSE system of class 1, class 2, class 3. So like that, there is a graded system in the UK.
Right.
So that's what we use as our benchmark to be able to communicate with each other, what level is he at, right? So we look at how many join, at what point they are, and when they leave, what point they are they at.
Got it. And you said you were at 450 at your peak. What is it now
Yes.
like? What are the numbers like now? How many students?
Before COVID, we were doing 250. COVID took a big bite out of our, entire revenue model altogether.
Okay.
So we lost about 50% overnight, because we kind of are one of the most expensive schools in our locality. If not one of, we probably are the most expensive school in our locality. So affordability itself became an issue,
right?
Because music is not, it's something you do apart from your studies, right? So it tends to, finally when the market is, everybody's losing money, we are kind of the first casualty to
right.
Plus being on the higher end. So during COVID, I made a very conscious decision not to lower the prices. Keep all of our staff on as it was. Right. So because finally we had to go, digital, and Teach Edison was one of our saviors at that point, because you guys came in and helped us actually get organized, rather than, just frantically exchanging meeting links and, as an organization, not knowing what's going on, other than, pure trust. I hope you are handling this. Right. So, but however, 50% of our students still stayed on. We managed to make I'd like to think, with the help of Teach Edison, a seamless transition.
Okay.
Because our teachers were still, tech savvy. They were able to immediately switch.
Right.
Children were always tech savvy to start with in any case. We got lucky because a lot of teachers are also into, the recording part of, so they were kind of already, everybody had a laptop and they had been used to working with, online things quite well already. With technology wasn't a fearful factor for them. And because by the time COVID hit, we had already were one-to-one lessons in any case.
Right.
And for music, group lessons online, I know it just doesn't work.
Right. And I think it goes without saying that before the pandemic, you were a completely brick and mortar model based teaching center. No
Yes,
online
yes,
was there.
We gave it a lot of thought. We were doing research here, there, but actually nothing, nothing had been done about it. Though
Got it.
there was tinkering with, because we realized that while we are following a high quality model,
Right.
where we are going to, no matter what, make sure that the quality of our service is the best that is possible, within the market that is here, we realized that, you have a certain
Right.
reach. Being a brick and mortar means, somebody can only study within, like I used to say, it's either 10 kilometers or 10 to 15 minutes of drive.
Correct. Yeah.
We can pretty much put 90% of our students there. The rest that we like to boast about, the 10% who take a train and come from 100 kilometers away, oh great.
Right.
But that does not solve that's not the bread and butter of, right? Because people are busy, they're busy world, either school or work, so for them to go through the traffic, reach a place, do a class and go back means that day is over then, apart from their regular, so it wasn't feasible. I mean, so the market was pretty much, so I saw online as the only way that, we could then leverage the high quality that we have here and try to have students come from afar who value it as well.
Right. So, Jack, you at 450 students, you kind of reduced it by 50%. You came to 250 before the pandemic.
Yes.
Your success rate was good,
250.
And then pandemic took away half your students. That would have left you about 125, 100 to 125, and then you continue, you sustain that 125 through online. But when you were at, say, 250 or about there, and it was brick and mortar model based, they used to come down to your center and learn. You had only students from around Delhi, probably, as you said, 90% were 10-15 kilometers, and then, a 10-15 minute drive, and then 10% were from a little far off place. But going online would have broken that barriers and boundaries for you, and then, and the entire country would have become your market, right? Didn't that help you?
Yes.
Didn't you get back to being 250 very soon? Can you throw some light on that?
No, we didn't go back to being 250. There's been a lot of flux in the market. There's been a lot of large players like White Hat, Junior, and lots of other names who have come in with big investments and big money into the digital teaching space.
Right.
And it was around at that point that the company had made big investments into, actually we own our own premises. And it's, for a music school, it's huge. It's 8,000 square feet, fully soundproof. We have a 50-seater Audi. We have a staff room separately. We have a band practice room.
Wow.
We have 3 waiting lounges. We have an elevator that runs across the building.
Wow.
So it was a huge, at least for a music school, it was, so we were anyway financially very, very tight, which meant we had little money for marketing against these giants, or a very custom solution that would, because as far as our digital strategy is concerned, I still believe we are on the back foot. We are probably just scratching the surface of it. Primarily because we right now cannot afford the investment required to actually take it to that level.
Okay. Interesting.
But yes, the good thing is that it's giving us a foot in the door, because now when students leave us and let's say they're shifting a city, right. Earlier it was a total loss.
Right.
Now 80% of them continue their lessons online.
Right.
Someone's gone to Canada, they're still studying. Someone's gone to Bangalore, they're still studying here.
Right.
And occasionally we do have, so it's growing very, very slowly. But I believe that it's also because what requires to be done in full to actually realize that potential, we are still to be able to implement it.
Got it.
But however, in the meantime, it's working very well as an add-on to the brick and mortar model.
Right.
Because a lot of times the students are unable, they are the usual brick and mortar students who are coming here to learn. But, there are a lot of times they would miss classes because, the transportation is not arranged, or the exam times are going, whereas they could make it for a 40-minute
Right.
lesson. The idea of wasting that entire evening. So what we've now done is we've made it hybrid. So all our students who come to school
Hmm.
automatically have a link for a online lesson saved,
Got
so
it.
they can convert to an online lesson at will. So it's kind of helping us do more than we could do earlier. And we also moved our entire music theory part to online permanently,
Hmm. Okay. Got it.
which is a pen and paper lesson.
Got it, Jack. So before pandemic, you were 100% in-person training. During pandemic, you must have
Yeah,
obviously become 100%, close to 100%, 90% online, 100%
100%.
online.
Yes,
And then
yes,
after the
yes.
lockdown, where
100% online.
relaxed and all those things. Currently, what is the percentage split between in-person and online?
It's about 85 and 15.
85 in-person and 15% online.
That's
Oh,
correct.
interesting. Okay. So after the lockdown was relaxed, right? Was it, what was your
Hmm.
mindset? Did you think that, what, hey, I think online is the way we need to do it online? Because I am assuming you had your 8,000 square feet physical space before the pandemic itself, right? And
Yes,
did a
yes, yes.
thought ever cross through your mind that after the pandemic, when you were doing 100% online, did you think, why am I having that 8,000 square feet space? Should I liquidate that and probably focus on online? Did you think about that? Not, okay.
No,
Okay.
no.
You always thought about
No, I
online
didn't.
as a temporary thing, is it, during the pandemic?
No, I have also realized that when it comes to the online, there are differences in how success is going to happen in both the cases. They're going to be very
Okay.
different. And I still felt that, even if we are going to do online major, let's say in coming years, right? They're still going to be broadcast out of a soundproofed, good classroom environment
Right. Right.
with great
Right.
connection and good control over the environment and how it
Right.
happens, right? Not to throw shade on anyone, but you know uh, grade I mean,
That's the standard you wanted to
teaching out
maintain.
of your bedroom is no yeah, teaching out of your bedrooms, you know with its associated issues
Right.
was never a professional solution to
Right.
me.
Right.
It worked
Right.
well for the time it did. So even when I'm thinking today of going online, I'm not thinking of hiring teachers from anywhere and connecting them online, because I would want control on the
Hmm.
space, so that the quality of the sound that we are capturing and delivering, audio, video, all of that needs to be top
Right.
notch.
Got it, Jack.
Which is very difficult to do, even with me having a studio, and my wife is also a musician. I have my kid breaking into the room at times, the neighbors drill going off at times, you know so it requires a professional space to deliver a professional experience.
Got it. And in that case, who are these 15%? Are they your ex students who moved on to other places, or they've been online always?
They actually represent the ones who joined us and remain online during the COVID.
Mm,
So
right.
a lot of the COVID learners, this is what I like to believe has happened, not that we've done a survey.
Uh-huh.
A lot of the ones who were not in town moved
Hmm.
back to learning from somebody close by physically,
Okay.
because what I've realized is that, see, when it started, as a teacher personally, I was also skeptic, thinking how much of a quality loss is going to be there in my classes over time,
Right.
because of this
Right.
medium related issues, right?
Right.
uh, Over time I've come to think that there is lots of pluses, there's lots of ways around lots of
Hmm.
things, right? But it requires intelligence and planning, and a well thinking teacher, somebody with experience,
Okay.
right, into teaching itself, because you've got to really work your mind at it. So but uh, so once the pandemic thing started, coming down, I could see a gradual shift in the enquiries itself
Okay.
moving,
Okay.
and even the ones who were leaving. So a lot of outstation ones, I believe, left and joined physical classes because they always thought of it as when it came
Music.
to music
Right.
classes, they always thought of it as a
Got it.
compromise.
Doing it online is some sort of a
Right?
compromise.
Yes. I mean, to be honest, I think they believe it's more of a compromise than it really is, to be
Okay.
honest, because we have students who are learning and reached a high level of proficiency in the last 3 years. So they literally started during the pandemic. So if it didn't work, it would not have been the case. Of course, there are certain things for which you realize the hardships are more and are going, like for drums.
Got it.
I mean, I could go into depth about why it is, but I can just tell you,
No. Yeah.
trying to do drums online, unless the party at the other end is willing to invest some serious money into it, it's a waste of time. Beyond a certain point, which means I can teach you to some degree.
Right, of course.
Beyond that, the practicality of me being able to see everything,
right,
being able to get a decent audio,
right,
and for you to also, it requires soundproofing of the room, it requires multiple cams, it requires multiple microphones and all of that going into a, you can expect a professional guy to do that. You can't expect somebody who's starting out to have that kind of, So I think what's happened is a lot of the people, so most of the people, I think, are not really convinced about the value for money proposition
when it comes to online.
right? Because we haven't kept separate rates. We charge the same whether
it's online.
Charge online. So like I said, for online, I think going ahead, the strategy needs to be different. How we approach it needs to be different. A lot of things that are unique to that model and how it will work. So right now, 15%, yes, they are online. They're doing well. And some are in the city itself, They're not even outside the city. So
they're pretty okay with online.
So we are hoping that the same thing that worked for us, the word of mouth that has worked for the brick and mortar, till we can, bring more money into our digital setup itself.
Right.
Be able to invest more into, a custom solution.
Right.
Right. In terms of how we are interacting, right? There is so into that, the technology aspect of that, particularly the application that lets us, manage and do this, it needs a lot more frills, and bells and whistles around it, I think, to make things easier. And the second is, I think, the fact that there are 15% goes to show that there is, I think, a decent amount of goodwill, word of mouth working.
Yeah.
Because I would have thought it would have disappeared, but it has not.
Yeah.
That sharp fall that I initially saw, I was like, is this going to disappear or,
right?
Because I still wanted to keep it because I think it's great. Someday my student can't land up, and instead of missing a class and missing the growth, right? We can log in online and we can still do it and keep going with things. So
no, Jack. Not only that, right? I mean, because you were just talking about a while back, you told, you probably you're not in a space where you can invest a lot into your digital transformation or, digital expansion for you to kind of, go from 15% to maybe say 35-40%. It's going to take a lot is what you're saying. That means, you probably have somewhere in your head that, I would like to expand this online and then, probably widen my market.
I personally think that, there should be at least 3 times the potential for online than
what
we are doing on campus.
Okay.
Yeah. So if you're doing 125 on campus,
you should have 500 students.
Getting to 300 online. Yes, because see, the market
so
size
much
is
larger.
So much larger.
Yeah. It's crazy. You can literally
and because when we focused on quality, what happened is the price went up. And then again, it reduced the number of people who could afford us. Whether they recognize quality or not is secondary. Just being plainly affordable is just like, every time I buy cheese, I don't always buy the cheese I want, I buy the cheese that I can afford.
Right.
Right. So while, on one hand you think of affordability, the other hand, there's how do I get through to more? So I personally think that I mean, I know that I have not cracked it, but I'm sold on its
Potential.
potential,
Great.
because having seen it through COVID, having taught myself
Right.
and brought up a set of learners across this period,
Right.
I certainly know where the problem areas
Right.
are already. So I think whether it was a forced learning, I'm glad that that learning happened.
Got it, Jack. Interesting. Jack, you spoke about how, for example, you took an example of drums, and then you said, it's going to take a lot
Hmm.
of money and, a lot of effort from the learner's side also to kind of invest and learn online. Um, Now, you've used the platform, whatever platform you're using online for teaching. Do you see that technology can also contribute to solving some gaps that are existing for teaching online music? If you think there are gaps, what those gaps could possibly be?
Uh, could you rephrase that? I'm not
Yeah.
certain I
So
understand.
from a software perspective, right? For online, you're using say
Hmm.
Teacher Essence platform now, or let's assume any platform that you're using, right? You're using some sort of an online platform
Hmm.
to teach. You said for
Hmm.
drums, from a hardware perspective, it takes
Hmm.
camera, it takes soundproofing for the students and all those things.
Hmm.
Understood.
Hmm.
Do you think there are gaps in the software for 100% proper teaching to happen for music especially, or you think no, software is fine, it's just that the hardware and all those
No, no,
things?
no. There is gaps in software. So when I meant about it, it'll take a lot more investment from the way I look at it. What I meant is the software,
Hmm.
and by and large,
Can you
what I meant is the
can you
software.
just on a very high level, what are these software gaps that are you think there are, Jack, right now?
See, let me see if I can
Yeah,
explain
yeah,
this.
just give it a
So
try. Yeah.
right now the software we are
Hmm.
using is not custom built with probably the things that I want to do with it.
Okay.
It's been made for a larger
Okay.
purpose from a right. Now what happens is when you try to do things with it, and for music and particularly music
Mhm.
instruction at a practical level, right, the things that I foresee and I've learned from the last 3 years, it requires a very custom solution which I don't think
Okay.
exists, which means being able to commission somebody to literally write it out
Right.
for you. And that's where I see the cost
Got it. Got
factor
it.
coming, because it's not that I can use somebody's existing and actually, it's falling far short of, and particularly with the learning I have gotten, it falls a lot short of what I would call ideal from my current understanding.
Got it, Jack. Interesting. Probably, I'll take this offline with you later, just a suggestion. But, it's an interesting point that, I think I have here. So, Jack, a little bit tangent from here, because this kind of, it was there in my head always, but I thought I'll get back to this a little later. See, you said you started off with a small shop, where you had a 4 feet reception, and then, you had a mezzanine floor. That's how we got separated two classes. But then now you're talking about 8,000 square feet campus with a lot of fantastic facilities that you said soundproofed. You've got elevators, you've got lounge areas and stuff like that. This literally sounds like a fairy tale, right? From a business perspective, in 20 years you've just grown like that. Was it, I mean, did you have to get funding for it, or was it all, just multiplication of students and then just growing organically? What did it take for you to reach this
Gro-
stage?
Growth has been mostly greenfield. We've not received any, you know, equity funding of any kind. The
Okay.
property was finally bought on through banks,
Okay. Okay.
right? So the so we don't have any traditional investment per se.
Got it.
I'm open to it from the right quarters, from the right mindset.
Right.
But currently, so the building is itself is collateral for itself, for the so I mean, we have liabilities vis-a-vis banks, but
Got it.
equity
Got it.
wise, not. I mean, currently we are
Nothing.
free of any
Got it.
nothing.
And as a business, you're
It's all
profitable at this
greenfield,
point.
like I said.
Yeah. Got it.
Yeah, across the years, it's been just greenfield growth. 1 year's growth financing the next.
Got it. Great. So, Jack, it's interesting. I'm just gonna dig a little deeper here, just to understand the principles with which you operated. Because when you say that the building itself is a collateral for it, um, through the banks and stuff like that, I'm sure. At one point you had your profits and you did not decide to kind of have fun with the profits, rather you've
No.
reinvested the profits into the business and you've
Yes.
grown, right?
Yes.
But at the
Yes.
same time,
Yes.
it's a balance between reaping the I mean enjoying the profits a little bit, and at the same time using the profits to grow as well. And how did you kind of balance it out? Was it just common sense, or did you use expert advice to kind of chart out this plan? How did it all happen?
To be honest, I mean, a few years into doing the work, we realized that, I mean, I don't have very, let's say, expensive tastes, or
Right.
or I mean, I have a few things that I probably would spend a lot more money on than most people would. But
Okay.
by and large, I'm kind of not a very, I wouldn't say a very materialistic person. I drive a Maruti Alto. That's my second Maruti Alto.
Wow. Okay. Your first one kind
it
of
just
ran its course, and then you got another
Yeah,
Alto.
I ran it to the ground, and then I got another one. Right, so that kind of, just to give you an idea of, it just gets me from point A to point B.
Right.
When I had too much work, I got a driver, and I'd sit behind and get my work
Driver
done.
for an
So,
Alto. Yeah.
but yeah, because I could sit behind and use those, the times
Time. Yeah.
I had to be on the road
Yeah.
for 3 to 4 hours. I was on the road
Okay.
because I was handling multiple businesses that time, and I was looking after the marketing for the school as well.
Okay.
So,
Great.
so, I mean, yes, I mean, are the margins great? No. Are you going to become a billionaire? I don't
Okay.
know. I mean, maybe you're smart enough to do that, and for me, that was never a big,
Goal.
right. But
Maybe.
yes, I mean, I'm very and I'm very glad that I've gotten to this
Right.
point where at least I can see some of the things I thought about 10 years ago coming
Right.
through. Some of the decisions we made in terms of keeping our finances above board,
Right.
paying taxes, getting audits. I think all that really paid off when we went into the market to raise a loan,
Right.
because our entire history was there,
Yeah.
audited to be
Yeah.
seen,
Yeah.
So even though there was a lot of music school, right, but there were still enough people after looking at the finances to say, okay, we'll we'll come in on this one.
Okay. Okay. Got it. So, Jack, if you don't mind, can you briefly walk us through what are these other businesses? Because look, first of all, it's a little bit of as I said, it's pretty, as I termed it weirdly linear, weirdly clean for a musician to have this sort of thing. And you add, not only did you, steer clear of these performances and all that drama, you just went into a very neat way of teaching, and then starting a school and then growing it to the level that you have so far. And not only this, you're talking about running a few other businesses as well. What are these few other businesses? How did you manage from a time perspective?
I mean, like I said, it must have been age. I cannot for the life of me think of ever doing it again.
Okay.
So there was in 2000, 2009, I started an artist management firm called
Mm.
Gig Support.
Okay.
So the idea was that, I mean, it was also because I saw an overlap in, right, because a lot of our teachers were performing
Right.
musicians, and I could clearly see that they were not running the business of their work well,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
right? And those who were there were not really in it for the artist
Mm.
at all,
Mm.
right?
Mm.
So, I could see that the artist was making a pittance compared to the entire deal that was happening.
Right.
So we thought, hey, why not we bring some of this experience, right?
Right.
So, and then we did a music festival. We did
Mm.
production for a few music festivals, managed a few artists. But I mean, the company did work for a while, and then you know, I shut it down because I didn't have the time to actually be doing it full time. I
Got it.
realized,
Got it.
and B, the market was very different than what I had imagined it to be.
Right.
Right, so that is something I did from 2000, I think 8, 9 to 2012.
Mm-hmm.
So it was called Gig Support Artist Management, but it gave me a good insight into the performing industry and how it works. We were a team of three,
Hmm.
and we had exclusive artists under management,
Hmm.
and our job was to make sure that the artist doesn't is marketed well,
Right.
is strategized well, is seen at the right places,
Mm-hmm.
and get the billing up and the bookings up.
Right.
So this was, and at the same time make sure the actual show itself is managed well as well from the slice of art that is the performing part.
Got it.
So that was what essentially that company did. So we did that for a couple of years, and we even ended up producing for people, because people would say, okay, I want to do this, but I don't know how to do the sound or this or that, can you do that also for us? We'd end up doing the whole shebang, including the stage, the
Right.
sound, the engineers, and the
Right.
artists. But then that that shut down in 2011.
Mm-hmm.
2011. I mean, so 2011 also had. If you're aware of, like we briefly spoke, the UK government, like grade
Yeah.
one,
Yeah.
grade two, right? So based on that, there are certain exam bodies that are in India.
Okay.
If you've heard of
Trinity, I've heard
Trinity
of. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
College,
It's a common thing that I've heard
so okay,
amongst. Yeah.
yeah, it's a contemporary of Trinity is ABRSM,
Okay.
and Rock School was the third player.
Mm.
And what was special about Rock School, or RSL Awards as it's
Okay.
known now, they were the first to bring these graded exams to contemporary music.
Okay.
And we've always been a contemporary music is a large part of what we do, even though I'm trained in classical, a lot of our teachers are trained in classical,
Right.
but contemporary music. So, I mean, we were also instrumental in starting those exams in India. We were the first school to put up students for Rock School. And Rock School's international business was managed by Trinity.
Mm. Okay.
The network of how they will send out these examiners and conduct these exams was riding on the Trinity network. So in 2011, they parted ways.
Okay.
And they contacted me to grow their business in India. So I literally took over as the role of their CEO in India,
Okay.
and then grew that business between 2011 to 2017 from 5 cities to 25 cities.
Wow. Okay. You played the role that Trinity played for Rockwell.
Rock
School.
School, yes.
Sorry.
And I helped them establish their own office. Yeah.
Okay.
So in India, I became their
CEO.
CEO and set up office and I set up I was called the director, but
Okay.
the job was essentially that of a CEO.
Right.
Not so much of a director as it was. I mean, of course, from the strategy perspective, it was that of, but there was an executive part also, which was that I had to literally see the setting up of the whole, going from 5 to 25. So deciding where to, how to, what to, and going around and, doing workshops, meeting people. But that I believe was great, because I got to meet hundreds and hundreds of schools across India.
Right.
Thousands of teachers. So it kind of gave me a insight into
the music scene in
classrooms
India
and teachers, the music education
that I
could not have ever gotten on the ground what's happening. You still know a little bit about what's happening around you,
Right.
but never across the country, sitting in one place, like sitting in a place like in a locality in Gurgaon. How do you know how it's being done in Chennai? How many schools are there? Who's doing what? What are the standards? So for me, that was exciting. So apart from the whole entrepreneurial side of strategically having decisions to make that have big impact on big money and expenditures, which are all going to show up very soon, on your bottom
Got
line.
it.
So it was, as a teacher as well, it was interesting because it added to my experience of running the school as well,
Right.
because I could a fairly good look across the country what was going on.
Great. Cool. So, I mean, I thought, now it makes sense because all the businesses that you spoke about, it's all linked to music. So it really
Yes,
doesn't feel like,
yes, yes,
so there is a little bit of a coherence
yes,
there. And I think it should have been a little bit effortless for
yes,
you. And I'm sure, you also enjoyed or, probably helped you understand from a wholesome perspective as to like what music
yes,
is apart from just teaching. After you spoke about this entire CEO stint of yours, Jack, with Rock School, you said, you had a great opportunity to meet hundreds of music schools and thousands of teachers. So, what is the what is the music education in India like? If you have to, give a brief summary as to what's going on, where are we heading towards, where are we? Because I have no idea as to what the music education in India is like.
we are at a nascent disorganized stage right now, by and
Okay.
large.
Okay. Okay. And
By this, I'm not trying to say, I'm taking a overall country view,
got it.
not I mean, if you look at just certain pockets, you can as well as say that they're quite good.
Right.
They're up there with some of the best, right? But I'm talking, if I had to literally count every teacher in every school that I met
Right.
across
It
India,
is nascent
we are at a
disorganized.
nascent stage where right now it's not gotten organized enough
Okay.
to be called an organized industry yet.
Got it.
I mean, it's all the right signs are there,
Okay.
but we're not there yet.
Okay. Okay. Jack, help me give this perspective. I would like to understand. Okay, right now you're saying it's at a nascent disorganized stage. Okay, let's say it's at its best state. Let's say it reaches its full potential. How would that
Hmm.
as a common man who does not have any music inclination, or who doesn't, I mean, I
Hmm.
listen to film music that come out, right? In what the
Hmm.
most people do, that's about it. I don't know much about music and stuff like that. I follow some musicians, some singers,
Hmm.
I follow some favorites, some songs and stuff like that. But if the music education in India were to reach its potential, it's as good as, say, the tech education in India. What different
Hmm.
uh, what difference would I be seeing? How would it change things in India for the music space?
From the perspective of the learner, or are you
No,
from the perspective of a?
of a
Shall I just
consumer,
give my perspective on it?
of a from the perspective of a consumer. For a consumer, what difference would it make? Like for a common man like me.
He would, if we define the common man as you. Uh,
Yeah, I mean, who's not a musician,
Jagmohan,
basically.
okay. Uh, Let me try to answer this the best I can. Okay.
Okay,
So typically in the UK, right,
right, right.
a teacher who teaches music
Okay,
uh, charges you about, an average teacher. We're not talking about like one of the best. We're not talking
okay,
about a newbie either. 30
okay,
to 40 pounds a lesson,
okay,
which is about 4,000 rupees a lesson,
okay. Per lesson,
right?
you mean per hour, right?
If
40 minutes per hour.
40 minutes, yeah,
Okay,
right.
okay,
So what tends to happen is, in any industry,
mm,
the best talent also comes in when, the pay also gets sufficient for you to, be able to, right? There
Right.
is a
Right.
correlation, because even if you
Mm.
like to do something, if it's not
Right.
going to be enough to just maintain the lifestyle that you've had or used to,
Right.
it makes a difference, right? Right. It's difficult to, I mean, like we spoke about the scientific brain drain at one point in India. So unless we are
Correct. Yeah.
purely dependent on patriotism to to work the industry, it's not. So the stuff that you probably consumers are going to, I mean, so like I'm talking about. So if you look at that in UK, and now if you
Mm.
look at China,
Mm.
right? Uh, there are music schools with 1,000 students.
Okay.
I mean, because Rockschool works across 130 countries, and we'd have international conferences which would happen in Shanghai, Singapore, and then you
Mm.
got to meet, like, I'm the head of this country. You'd be hanging out with all the
Right.
top guys of who are handling work for Rockschool, and
Right.
China was a very good example of, there are music schools like ours which are like, they have 500 drum students. Okay,
Mm.
they teach only drums. They have 500 students.
Okay.
So, uh, so that's why I felt that, I mean, both the pressures will be there. One, the because as quality increases,
Mm.
how much people are willing to pay for it will finally determine the kind of quality that is possible, right? For example,
Right.
we have teachers here who've gone to Berkeley, to study and come back, and that's 3 years and an expense in excess of 1.5 crore to study there and come.
Wow. Okay.
Who are teaching, but I know for a fact that he's never going to recover that money from teaching his entire life,
Right. 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 Right.
right?
Yeah.
So if you can think a little more deeply around these things, you'll realize the fundamental problems in great quality coming at, because you need a higher level of interest. You
Mm.
need people to be able to, you know, because finally, see, if you as a layman, you go to a school and you want to study, right?
Right.
Right now, if you don't do your research well,
Mm-hmm.
or you don't have good advisors,
Right.
chances of you finding a teacher who can actually knows his work enough to guide you in the best possible way are very low.
Right.
And as
Right.
you reduce your spend on it, it's almost impossible to find somebody who all you're going to find is somebody who actually didn't make it as a performer and is trying to survive by teaching but doesn't really love teaching,
Mm.
or some newbie out of college who's trying to make money, right?
Right.
Because education is a thing in itself, right?
Mm.
And it's something that I've had to work as hard as my music to be able to be any good at it. Because knowing
Right.
how to play great does not mean I know how to teach that great, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Right.
So people,
Probably.
how many of us? Yeah, sorry.
No. 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 Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead. A.
Go on,
How
go
many
on, go
of
on, go
us?
on.
No. I was. I was also
How many
thinking.
of us?
I'm sorry. You should finish that. How many of us? Yeah. There's a little bit of lag.
Like, see, how many of us who go into a field also enjoy teaching enough
Mm.
to actually sit and work at teaching,
Right.
learning about teaching, right now in India we are not even at the point where there is a proper place where you can go to at least get your first B.Ed up type, in teaching itself,
Right.
teaching music, which
Right.
I think is a very different ball game than teaching a theoretical subject,
Mm.
a purely theoretical subject, right?
Got it.
Because it involves a lot more of the hands, your posture, your mental state, right? Because in performing arts, you need to get it the first time over in front of your audience. There is no, It's not like applied art, right?
Right.
So your mental strength is also one of the things. So I'm saying, as a teacher,
Hmm.
if you got to be in this space, and me as an entrepreneur running a school, right? When I'm looking out for people, I'm looking out for people like this,
Right.
because I think that's where the real value add comes to the education, right?
Right. Right.
In India, we don't even have a proper teachers training
Correct.
yet, but I think it's a matter of time. When the Chinese economy became 5 times of ours, it did have differences in how things worked there.
Got it. Got it, Jack. It's interesting that you spoke about the Chinese. There's a school in China that has got just for drums, 500 students learning drums, right? Probably, what I was getting to at is this. Now, why do people go and fall behind learning software engineering or, computers? That's because they get hired by a company, huge company like Google or a Facebook, and then, it's money is the biggest motivation. And very few people,
Hmm.
they're passionate about something. They want to create, build products and stuff like
Hmm.
that. That's there always in all the fields. But when it comes to
Hmm.
music, right? Music, probably the
Hmm.
first thing is passion. It's probably a luxury for you to be an artist, because it's this is how it is, right? I mean, as a human being, we gravitate towards art and other things when basically our food, shelter and clothing is taken care of. And then most of us are probably still
Yes.
lying in that space, where we are looking for food, shelter and clothing, and hence we don't have the time nor the mindset to go behind art. So when somebody is pursuing art, they are already in a certain state of lifestyle, and even their probably their mental well-being or spiritual well-being is a little bit higher. Okay, let's say they are not the basic things are taken care of, survival is taken care of, so they are aspiring for something that's a little more than surviving alone. It's a more finer, they are seeking for a deeper satisfaction than most others. And when so is that so when you say 500 drums students are there, is it that those 500 people are are living at that lifestyle enough to kind of forget about survival and go towards deeper satisfaction? Or where are they heading towards once they finish the drumming? Is there an industry waiting for them, waiting to employ them, or is it for just for their satisfaction? That's where I was trying to come from, basically, when I was asking you what would
I
happen.
think I I think it grows overall step by in hand, right?
Hmm.
Because when you, let's say, I mean, this is what something I tell performers as well when I meet them, those who, right,
Right.
that you having high paying jobs depends on what we do today, because these are going to be your
Mm.
audience,
Right, right, right,
right?
right.
90% of, right now, they're going out with a music education, which means that
Got it.
they will demand to see better entertainment as
Got it.
well,
Got it.
right? So I believe all of this goes lockstep with
Right,
each other.
right, right.
But on the outermost, I was just touching upon the fact that you so rightly pointed out that because it is finally not directly related to survival,
Right.
right? So the economy has, as we become more affluent as a society, it will be able to support the arts better as well,
Mm. Right, right,
right?
right, right, right.
Because right now in Delhi, there's uh, one place that makes money off primarily music as a restaurant. It's called the Piano Man Jazz Club,
Okay.
right? So that can there's one that can say that we our primary fundamental reason for being is music, and people will come here to listen to music,
um,
and that to jazz.
Got it.
Right now, this is going to happen for every little thing, not just
It's a
for
very
to be
interlinked thing.
honest, for Bollywood, it's already happening.
Right.
For Bollywood music, it's already happening. There are probably 8 places in Delhi right now which, if you are doing Hindi music, Bollywood, there'll be a show every week at least.
Right.
Right. So it's interlinked, and I believe it will get there gradually.
Got it, Jack. Yeah,
Because
yeah.
when
And
I
I
look at
think when you,
our economy,
yeah,
when I look at UK, when I look at US, when I look at China, it feels like I'm seeing some of and other countries, some of India's past and some of India's future. You kind of get a link of course, the good thing is that see, we have our own music as well,
right.
right? And if you see what's actually happened to it across the years is that most of the Indian instruments have gotten replaced with Western instruments.
Mm, right.
Right? Now they're producing all that music on keyboards. Fine, they're singing in Hindi. There's a bass guitar always.
Right.
There's a piano. There's
Yeah,
strings.
yeah.
If you see the arrangement of the music,
Yes.
let's say go back 40 years and now, you find a whole big difference in the way things are being done.
Right.
So I mean, it's evolving to, and the good thing about India is I think it tends to absorb things into its, veins. And it seems to be big enough for having space for a lot of variety.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think there's ever going to be a shortage of variety. As you said, I think with some, as I think as things improve, art is also going to get, that recognition and that improvement, and it's going to go up there. And then, I think when you pointed out that one
And
place in Delhi, it, kind of clicked for me as to
Hmm.
how it's all interlinked, and where all
and
these.
I'd like to point out one more thing as well. You probably should be really aware of. You probably would know this, and I'm originally from Kerala, so I have a fair idea of this, and I think so will you. When
Okay.
I discuss music with a lot of, I mean, like I'm saying, it's partly cultural as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
When I speak to people from South who are here,
Mm.
right,
Mm.
for them, they seem to think that musical training is as important as maths.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So
Correct.
they get their kids, they put them into our music school right from, and for them it's no longer a matter of, oh, this is not a, they don't look at it as hobby, could learn some songs. They're saying, oh, just like he's learning everything else, he needs to learn music because
Music.
it's
Correct. Correct.
important for
Correct.
his brain.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
It is important for his brain growth.
Right.
I mean, so no longer are we talking about whether it's, it is a matter of luxury or not. It is a matter of whether
Correct.
you realize that it's a very important part of personality development. Your
Yeah.
ability to play music and do an instrument. There are certain
Yeah.
things that change your personality for good. And
Yeah.
I've seen this in our school. I
Yeah.
mean, 25 years of teaching, I've seen how it changes people in how they speak, in how they interact, in how they express themselves, their confidence levels.
Right.
So the North has not been so much like that.
Mm. Right.
In my opinion, the
Right.
North has been more entered into it from an entertainment perspective.
Right. Right.
Music was purely seen as entertainment,
Got it.
which is also seems to be changing this side as well. But like I said, but lot from Tamil Nadu side, I have had parents who can't even understand why would you be even asking why you're learning, because like that's like you asking me why does your child want to learn maths? Like, yeah, because he's got to learn maths. As simple as that.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, a very important point, Jack. Very important, very interesting. Because, you could have probably answered my question in this one line, boss. I mean, what is this big fuss are you creating about, 500 drummers, or, where are we going to go? I mean, it's also, why don't you include music also part of the everyday curriculum in school? Which is definitely, yeah, because, interestingly, I had another podcast with another music academy called Strats, based out of Chennai. They're about 2 years old now. It's been run by three youngsters in their mid 20s. And then, they were talking about how music, you don't have to think of it from a return on investment perspective. If you do music, yes, there is return on investment, but not it's a very indirect ROI that you're going to see, because it's a very important thing for a human development, from that's the point of view in which they spoke. So whatever you said, I could totally connect with it. But Jack, we are at 5 o'clock. Tell me something. Did you plan to stop at 5? Do you have something? Is there any possibility
No,
you
no,
can
I have
stretch?
time.
Oh, great. Thank you.
Yeah,
Because,
I'm free till 6:20.
oh, great. Thank you so much. Because I did not ask.
Because you warned me. Because you warned me when I said I don't think I can speak for so long. When you seem confident, I said, yeah, in that case, let's keep a good margin, because he seems very confident that he can speak for.
Okay. I hope. Have you surprised yourself here?
Yeah, it's been so pleasant, so I didn't even notice time fly by.
Great, Jack. Because as in when you give a response, there are 10 questions for me, and I have to choose. I cannot go on asking everything. I have to choose.
No
Okay,
problem.
let me prioritize this. That's why I'm coming. That's why I'm coming there. Because when you told about rock school, right? It was very interesting that you said you have this insight about music education, and then I was like wondering, okay, where is this? So another question I had, Jack, you said taking the overall average, you said you are going to use the words nascent and unorganized. But if you had to point out, okay, let me rephrase this question like this. As a learner, let's say I'm looking at music as a very important part of my life, and I want to pursue things in music, and I want most of my life to be about music, and I'm somewhere in India. Which is the best place for this person to go live and study music, from your experience?
Delhi,
Wow. Okay. Can you justify what are the reasons?
Bangalore,
Okay.
Delhi, or Bangalore. Because see, what you need at the point of training is the availability of good academics around.
Okay.
Right. See, if you had said, if I want to succeed in the in the music industry, right, I want to make money, where should I go? I would have said Bombay.
Okay.
But that's where you go to do your on the job training.
Right.
That's not where you go to get your education.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And when you're going there, you have to be clear that you can't have problems working with Bollywood or the ad market,
Right.
because you're not going to succeed as a performer there. If live
Right.
gigs is your thing, again, Delhi, education, Delhi, Bangalore, and upcoming is the Northeast Belt.
Wow. Okay. I'm
They're getting fast off.
okay. Okay. I'm a little surprised. I'll tell you why. Because I've lived in Bangalore all my life, and here everybody, when they talk about music, Chennai is what they say as the capital of music and stuff like that. Probably are they referring to Carnatic music? Is that where Chennai comes into play?
Carnatic and the Bollywood connection. That's that.
Oh, that's Chennai. Okay. Okay.
Right.
So,
Because see, I'm very specifically speaking education within Western contemporary
got
and
it.
Western classical music.
Got it. Got it. Got it. Got it. Got it.
So if you've got to be learning in this, then you got to be at Gurgaon, Delhi belt. You got to be at the Gurgaon, Delhi belt or Bangalore.
Okay.
If you have to maximize your chance. I'm not saying there aren't people elsewhere, but this is the hub. So that's where you got to be.
Got it, Jack. And would you say the same for teachers as well? If teachers want to make a good living, let's assume there's no online as of now for music. They'll have to go and teach face to face. Where do you think is the most demand? Is it the same answers? Is it Gurgaon and Gurgaon,
Same.
Delhi, and Bangalore? Is it okay? Okay, got it. Great. Okay, Jack. Thank you for your insights on these things. Now going back to Performance Collective, right? From I want to like cover some topics about pertaining to the reason why we are here. You started off primarily as a teacher mainly, and then you became involved in business, and then the entrepreneur's job and stuff like that would have taken over. When you started off, you must have spent most of your time teaching. When you have to compare
Yeah,
those times to now, do you even teach now?
I do teach. I do teach. I teach
Okay.
about 25 students currently.
Hmm.
I like teaching. So in between, for a couple of years, I had to stop teaching altogether
Okay.
because while setting up the Rock School offices and that exam centers, it was a huge push, going from 5 cities to 25 within like a span of 12 months.
Okay.
So at that point, I was traveling extensively, and I suddenly realized that my I was taking fewer lessons than my substitutions were going to take of mine.
Right.
So I thought that's not fair. That's not fair on the kid.
Right.
So I stopped teaching for about 2 years entirely
Okay.
because being a teacher means you have to be around.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
It's kind of a
It's
given.
a commitment. Yeah.
So post that, yeah. So post that, I was glad to get back to it because it gives me a sense of satisfaction, and it's something that I keep wanting to grow at, get better at, and each personality I meet is a new thing, a new, you know,
Right.
something new there to learn, and so yeah. So I do teach about 25 students, like I said. That doesn't fluster me much, but yes, there's a lot of work that goes into being an entrepreneur,
Hmm.
and it's like having your baby. And I had a child 4 years ago. The
Okay.
closest thing I can tell you about it is it's like having a kid.
Right.
It's
Right.
right, because it's going to take up all your time. You might
Hmm.
love it as much as you want, but it's going to rag the you know so there is a big difference between when I used to go in to teach at different schools, get my paycheck at the end of the month, and at least for me, it was because I straight away started at the best place in town, so
Right.
my paychecks were always great, right? I mean,
Right.
for those times, right?
Right.
But
Right.
I can tell you that if you are getting into entrepreneurship in it, I don't know about others. At least my experience is that it's a lot of work. It's a lot of hard work,
Good.
and it's a lot of learning that you have to constantly be ready to do, because market forces
Right.
change, things change, and you have to. I mean, anything and everything you do is going to become, if you're good at it and it succeeds, is going to become standard practice within 12 to 18 months
Right.
across the industry. So the only true way you can maintain an edge is to be always learning and applying it, because after all, you're a teaching organization,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So if you got to learn how to teach, then you got to know how to learn as well, and be constantly on the
Right.
and because the in terms of if you compare to some countries, the amount of money that people are willing to spend on music is
Okay.
low in
Okay.
India, which means you have to be really creative about how you go about making that service, and one where most of the resources go into the most
Hmm.
useful things, and how you're going to do your DIY on everything else, and how because you still need to market, you still need to reach out to your audience, you still need to, like, because we make videos of our children playing, our students, our learners, even adults, when they reach a certain
Right.
milestone or a mark that we feel okay, So we make a nice video of them and put it
Right.
out. Right? So it helps us in many, many ways. It's a documentation for
Right.
us. It's great for the
Right.
student who gets to show off his
Right.
work. It's great for our
Right.
marketing, and it's the cheapest form of marketing we have, because we don't need to sit and explain a lot of things to
Yeah.
you. You see the end product, right? So you're going to have to really look at how you're going to work on a very lean management structure. At least that's been the experience for performers, because most of the money goes into making sure we have the best of instructors, the best of infrastructure, because that lies at the core of do you have real educators with you, and are you making sure that you're enabling them to do what they want to do well enough?
Yeah. Got it, Jack. So you say you teach about 25 students now. Let's say, I mean, approximately, from a percentage point of view, if you were at 100% when you started off, now has that percentage come down, say for about 25%, 50%?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Got it.
Yeah, yeah,
Got it.
yeah.
And how much?
It it it
Yeah.
it it was, even because once I started, I mean, once the business started to take off from as a
Hmm.
school, you know, right from that point, it became obvious that, it's between, you have to now take out time between the classroom and, how are you going to do your marketing? How are you going to, you know, do a lot of the other things that are required around the school, from managing, checking
Right.
quality to
Right.
how,
Right. Exactly. I was my next question
so
was going to be that as a company, as a performance collective, the way it's grown, you're definitely come a long way from how you started. uh, when you started, you must have, most of your time must have gone into teaching and building a brand, and then that's how you built a reputation. Now I'm sure you have a bunch of teachers, you have a huge network of teachers, and then teaching about 200 students. uh, where does your time mostly go, and what do you think is the most non-negotiable thing for you as a founder, as a person who runs? Which aspect of your business is non-negotiable for you?
the quality of the education is one.
Quality. Okay.
Yeah.
So when I talk to people who are doing online education, they record all their classes, and then they have a methodology to do some quality assessment. Let's say if a teacher is doing 5 classes, out of every 5 classes, one class randomly gets seen by somebody because it's recorded. But you're doing a face-to-face in-person thing. I'm not sure that's being recorded all the time, right? So do you do
No.
you just enter into a session and you sit down and check? Is that how it happens? Or
Uh, to, to be honest, I think, see, if one were to randomly walk into a
okay.
classroom and expect that that is a realistic example of what's happening, that's, I think, uh, that's fooling yourself, right? Because somebody who wants to show you a different face will show you a different face because they know you're there, right?
Right. Right.
So, for me, it has never been about this. So I have always looked at it as from the point of, I mean, as an example, I'll take the medical profession, right?
Right.
When you look for a doctor,
Hmm.
right, to work
Hmm.
in your hospital,
Hmm.
right, this is what I would imagine. You spend all your time looking for the right doctor, right,
Right.
that you want to work with, who has the skills, who has the experience, who, right? The reason is that because when that professional is then doing his job, you don't want to go in there and tell him what to do,
Right.
right? So I strongly believe that, because I'm a teacher and somebody who really, is serious about his academic, you know, career, I know that each of my classes is different. When I
Right.
started out, there was a formula. Now
Right.
that formula is not, their principles that I follow.
Right.
They're no longer formulas.
Right.
And
Yeah,
what will
right,
happen
right,
in each class will depend on who it is, what we did previously, and what the state of
right,
mind of the learner is there at that point sitting in front of me. Right?
right.
So my first go-to point is to actually get the right guy.
Got it.
So even if I have enquiries for students waiting, I will not take somebody who I do not have implicit faith in to start with.
Got it.
That does not mean that after that story is over, you know, you had a bad day, be terrible in your classroom. No, that's not the idea. The idea
Right,
is that you got to first of all, at the entry gate, my theory is that you got to look for somebody who shares your love for teaching, has some background experience, then meeting the person to see how they think about things,
right.
right? How's their thinking process working,
Yeah,
which gives me a lot of insight into how good you're going to be a teacher.
right. Got it.
Then the second step again, so I'd rather than check every class, right? We do get feedback from parents
Hmm. Right,
or students themselves. How's your lessons going? It's not so hard, right? It's not so hard to do, right?
got it.
Uh, a certain percentage of students appear for exams. So we have an external agency assessing these children and telling us what they think about the students playing,
Right,
right? We do regular concerts, which means we send these kids up to perform as well.
right,
We have a small in-house audience. So between all these things, there's a fair amount of, control. But at the same time, I believe that, you got to find the right guy, because you don't want to tell the doctor how to do his job.
right.
The doctor should be competent enough to do his job, right? So, since luckily we don't are, it's not a matter of life and death,
Yeah,
unlike a doctor's, right? We have a little more leeway into figuring
eBay.
out,
Yeah,
whether
yeah.
something's working or not. Yeah.
Got
Right.
it.
But by and large, I've realized that, the best place to control quality is right at the entry gate.
Hiring. You get the right people,
Yeah.
and then your quality. You don't have to worry about
Yeah.
quality
Then
later.
then you need to check on the periphery, right? And the standard things. But,
The processes. Yeah,
but, yeah,
got it. And
because, it's, hmm.
yeah, go on, go on.
It's like when my mom used to look, that guy, looks like a thief. And I'd say, Mom, if he was a thief, he certainly wouldn't look like it. That I can guarantee you, because if there's a guy standing outside our house looking like a thief, right, he's not going to be very good at his job.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah.
Right. So I'm not a big fan of micromanagement,
Okay.
because it ends up,
Yeah,
I think, throwing out the baby with the bathwater.
right,
And that doesn't work, because I know how I would feel if somebody was trying to micromanage me.
right, right. Yeah,
But everybody is encouraged to bring up problems that they have with me, which
right,
means that you don't need to succeed with everyone, but you
right,
you need to know why you're not succeeding.
right, 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 right. Got it.
And that's all right. Failures are tolerated here, as long as you're open and clear about, I can't get through to this kid. And I have had experience of teachers coming in saying, Jack, I don't know what's going on, but I'm just not, you know. And I say, no problem. Let's talk to the parents and see what they have to say. Sometimes it's just a rapo issue. Sometimes it turns out the child never wanted to learn music.
Yeah.
Sometimes it turns out he's lost in, sometimes it turns out right after school he's been got here and he's too tired. I mean, that's easy to solve. We just change the time,
Right.
the weekend. And so, the more open you keep it, and you let people know that failing is not a problem,
Right.
but not knowing why we are failing, that is going to be a problem.
Got it. Got it, Jack. Um, a follow up to this discussion, your teachers are on, are they freelancers? Are they working on hourly basis, or are they on your payroll?
We are not on a fixed pay package. They
Okay.
decide the number of days they want to work,
Right.
and based
Right.
on that. And in fact, that is also something that I think post COVID, I'm having, thoughts of changing it, because there are two. I mean, there are two. I mean, there are pros and cons to it, right? Now, what happens is there are some musicians who are really good
Right.
performers, and they've also across the years been genuinely good at teaching,
Mm-hmm.
right? Now, if I were to approach them and say, I'd like you to teach with us, but I mean, you're locked in with us, right? Or they might have studio work they do,
Right.
and they're
Right.
good teachers as well.
Right.
But if I put a precondition that you can only work here, it will not work out with them,
Correct. You're
right?
losing out
So
whatever
it
little
was
you're
kind
getting
of
also.
why, yeah, because that guy is willing to teach, 10 to 15 or 20 or 30 students,
Correct.
but he still needs his time to do his music. And I know where he's coming from,
Right.
right? Because a performing musician needs to keep practicing as well,
Yeah.
right? So, one aspect is that. The other aspect is that, it's easier on the organization if we just hire them flat, right?
Yes.
Because then they're
They're
available full
available
time,
full
right?
time. Yeah. Yeah.
And I like that idea as well. So now I've reached the point where I'm open to everything and anything.
Okay.
If I find the right guy,
If
you
they're
tell me what are you looking at, and I'm willing to work with you for it, because finding the right kind of teachers is very, 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 very difficult.
okay. Cool, Jack. I mean, if there are musicians listening and if they're looking for a teaching gig, I think by now they know where to head to, and probably you could be a person that they could talk to. Um,
Yeah,
uh, interestingly, the last thing that you spoke about.
yeah. Currently, we have way more, people waiting to join our piano and voice lessons than we have teachers. We still,
Still looking for
like I said,
teachers.
we're still looking for teachers because we have so many, and we don't have any free slots anymore for these two currently. But then, like I said, the problem is that we are so. I mean, I want to make sure that in at the gate itself that it works
Yeah, yeah, of
for all
course,
of us
of course.
well.
You have your, you have your
Mm.
ways. Of course, it is subject to certain conditions. Of course, I think that's pretty clear by now.
Yeah.
You spoke about sometimes teachers coming to you and talking about somehow it's not working out with the student, and it reminded me of one of the other
Mm.
conversations that I had with another person. He runs a company in Bangalore. He runs something called a schoolbox.com. His name is Hubert Di Mello. I spoke to him last week.
Mm.
And then, he basically helps connect students and teachers. He runs very something similar to Performance Collective, but then, he's helping kids with maths and science. And then, I was talking to him about,
Mm.
what's so unique about your business. A lot of people are doing this. And then, he said, because he himself has been a teacher for a long time, he realized that not all teachers are going to get along really well with all students. So he's got a model or a test or some sort of a mechanism where a certain matching process happens. The teacher fills out a certain type of questionnaire, the student fills out a certain type of questionnaire, and then based on a certain personality type they get matched, and it's worked pretty well for them. But not that I'm suggesting this to you, given that you already have a problem. You have a shortage of teachers, so I don't know how you're going to get to a point where you have the luxury of matching students and teachers. But yeah, but another interesting thing is,
That that
yeah.
No, that does happen, and we
Okay.
do shift teachers at times.
Okay.
But I'm very inquisitive about this figuring out the personality and assigning them right in the first go. That sounds very interesting.
Great. I can, I'll see. I'll
But
have a word with him. I'll, try and put you in touch with him. You can pick his brain, Jack. He's a
sure,
he's
that'd be
a,
great.
a pretty
Yeah.
friendly person from what I've spoken to him. So I think he shouldn't have. I mean, he can at least share some insights. It's not. It's based on Myers-Briggs test, is what he said, loosely based on that. The
Okay.
personality types and stuff. MBIT is what he called it. And Jack, another point that you touched upon, right? You told that
Hmm.
you cannot lock in teachers because they also need to be practicing performers for them to be also good teachers and stuff like that. So are all your do you so for a musician teacher slash teacher, what do you think? We have fixed number of hours in a year, right, or in a month. Say let's say it's about 200 hours roughly. What is the number of hours that should go towards themselves practicing, and what should be the split between them practicing and them teaching?
This is not necessary.
Okay.
It is from a teacher. You should have at least reached a level or two above the competence that you're teaching,
Okay.
right? Because with performing
Mm-hmm.
arts, if you stop doing something, your ability to do that goes away,
Right.
but not your ability to teach it. Like a retired tennis pro
Right.
still coaches tennis,
Right.
right? But he's not expected to win even from a student, right? In a straight out match,
Right. Right. Of course. Yeah.
right?
This reminds me
so,
of
so, uh,
those who don't play coach or something like that in a funny context. But no, no, no. I
those
mean,
who those who do those who can't play teach. Those who can do, those who can't teach. Right. So the thing with when it comes to teaching music is that some of the best teachers I have known, they've
right.
already been too old, not necessarily playing like they were probably in their heydays,
Right.
and that's okay.
Right. Right.
That doesn't make a difference. But you should have seen that level of playing at
Right.
some point in your life,
Right.
because without that you can't.
Got it.
Right? Because then it's just guessing. That's just guesswork. That's not true. So typically, you don't need. What I meant is that there are also people who have multiple things they do, and they're good
Right.
at both. Like I said,
Right.
like
Right.
they're also studio work people, but they also, like, I'm an entrepreneur. I love the whole
Right.
idea of having built things, and so even with Rock School, I was so excited because it was building something out.
Right.
It wasn't just taking over and managing something. I wouldn't have been so excited as
Right.
it was.
Right.
It was right. So like that, there are guys who do jingles, as well as they've been seriously teaching, and I've known them for years.
Right.
They as so when you want to accommodate in a market where you don't have a choice of, there are lots of good people with teaching aptitude wanting to teach. In the absence of that, you have to look at, again, go for quality, right? So
Right.
if this person cannot dedicate the 200 hours,
Right.
I'm fine with 30, because
Mm.
I'm not getting it elsewhere in any case.
Right.
Right? I am getting that 200, but it's not the quality that I
Quality
want,
you want. Right. Right.
or the experience that I want. So periodically, yes, we do take bets. Just like at the Delhi School of Music, somebody took a bet on me.
Right. Right.
I've also seen that a certain percentage, it's important to invest in somebody who's going to become the star. As far as we are concerned, in terms of teaching, like how
Got
Nike
it.
used to sponsor the not the big players,
Right.
but they used to sponsor the small unknown upcoming guy
Right.
before. So we also do a bit of that,
Got it.
and that's been also. I mean, we, like I said, because internally, where we had students who studied to a professional level, and then wanted to teach here,
Mm.
we had such a great history on them already, right?
Right.
We knew them since they were 12, 13,
Yeah.
their
Yeah.
attitude, their ability to work together with people, their, communication skill. Of course, we taught them, so we know what they know in terms of
Right.
subject matter. So, so, So we would take certain bets on that front as well. It turned out quite well.
Got it. Got it, Jack. Cool. And you also spoke about there was a situation, where a student probably wasn't really interested because after school, directly coming to a class was tiring, and then you might have sorted it out for a weekend. This kind of reminded me of another conversation I had, and then I was having this in mind, but I lost it, and then this kind of brought me back to this. So there is this entrepreneur in West Bengal, right? His name is Indrajit Balotia. He runs a company called as Champ for Life. And then he was a pro golfer at one point, and he was a number one ranked golfer in India for a certain amount of time. And he runs this Champ for Life academy, which helps people who are in sports, students who are in sports, because I saw a parallel between sports and music, and we also, kind of touched upon it slightly. You said, to succeed, you need to practice so many hours and stuff like that, and you may not have the time for your conventional education. And it's not a given that if you finish so much of music and if you're gonna make a living out of it. It could be a chancy thing, and not everybody, as you said earlier, may not have the thing for teaching. They might only be a performer, and if they don't click. And so this academy, what it's done is, for all those people who want to kind of have a conventional degree as an insurance in case they're not succeeding in either sport or anything that they want to do apart from education. He's taken curriculum from NIOS, which is National Institute of Open Schooling, and he's condensed that curriculum to just 10% of what it is, just enough for student to spend bare minimum time and pass and still be eligible to clear something and get a degree like a BCom or something like that later in case things don't work out. They can still get up a get a conventional job or do some higher education. I don't know, I'm just telling this to you. If at all you come across students who are talented, and if the parents feel what, he's talented and all, but then his education is taking a hit, there's an option like this for you, Jack. And the main reason for me mentioning this, has there been a situation like this where a student had to kind of give up music because their education was taking a hit?
I know that this might sound odd, but
Okay.
even, I mean, when I look back on it, I find that to be a little strange as well.
Okay.
All of, if I take from the music perspective, the top performers,
Right.
right? And we compared their schoolwork, I mean, their standard, yeah, their usual school, public school, the morning school they go to.
Right.
None of them were in the, in the bottom rung of their,
Got
I
it.
mean,
Education.
some of them were in the top rung, and some of them
Okay.
are in the top rung of what they're doing in their studies. But even
Okay.
the ones who took it lightly were all in the middle rung. So I couldn't really find an example where I'd say that, the regular education was getting in the way of, them.
Got it.
It's not been my experience. I mean, of course, I'm talking about those whom we would particularly notice as, okay, this is an unusual amount of work, interest, and dedication that this learner is showing.
Right.
They were almost always doing pretty well in their academics as well. Pretty well meaning they may not be topping, but they certainly were not in a place where, of course, we had parents who wanted them to top, 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 top. 97 is not good enough. 99 is is the magic number. Yes, that's there. But if
Right.
one took a reasonable, none of them were doing badly.
Got it. Got it.
I mean, because that would have been something that I would have remembered for sure.
No.
Because because looking at it, no, because one would think, okay, this needs some thought, because why should this person who's great at music suddenly not have a, because and I wasn't great at academics either,
Okay.
which meant that the subjects that I did like, I was in the top 10% of the
Okay.
class, And the subjects that I didn't like, I was in the bottom 10%.
Got it.
So my school found it very difficult to flunk me.
Right.
Because out of the 6, in 3 I was
In the
in the
top, yeah.
toppers list, and the rest 3 I was in the flunking list, and giving retests. So they couldn't figure out that. In fact, the principal called and told me as well. I think you're just faffing around, dude. So but I've not really found this example where
No, got it, Jack. It's a very insightful thing, because there must be some correlation between IQ and music, and yeah, could be. I'll probably
I mean, I've tried to look at it, but I've also thought about it from the point of view that to succeed at music, you have to have discipline,
right.
right? You have to sit every day and practice. So, which means your discipline and your drive. If you didn't have it, you needed to survive this training.
Correct.
So, if those two things are fixed, then those regular studies can't be such a big deal.
Got it.
I mean, knowing enough to pass can't be a big deal.
Yeah, it cannot. Yeah. Agreed. No, it's an
So
interesting
I've
thing.
not. I mean, to be honest, while I've seen this conversation and heard this conversation, I've never
You've
seen
never
one where
come
I can
across.
clearly say, "Ki, okay,
Right.
whereas I think in sports it's common also, because I seem to see it in common folklore
Right.
about even in the US, where these 15-year-old kids who are absolutely great at sports, but you know,
I'm sure there
so
is some correlation
because
about a physical
so
activity and a mental
in fact
activity, maybe.
in fact I remember when Berkeley is one of the biggest music colleges in the
Okay.
world for contemporary music. They're based out of the US,
Okay.
and they did a audition here one time ago, and their entire hiring team was here. Not
Okay.
hiring team, their admissions team was
Right.
here. So I
Right.
remember speaking to one of the older gentlemen, and so he said, Jack, do you know what is the most common double major? I said, no. It's software engineering and music. I was like,
Ah.
are you serious? I was like, are you
Okay.
serious? So this is circa 2009.
Right. Right.
Right.
Right.
So I found that very odd.
Mm.
He says, yeah. He says the most paired majors
Mm.
that Berkeley sees is
Software.
software engineering, which they don't do. But
Yeah.
Boston is
Got it.
a educational hub, so they'll do a software engineering and a double major from with them.
Got it. This is a very new and an
So
interesting.
I don't know how it
Yeah.
works. I don't know if it's the maths, but or the mathematical thinking you need with music. I mean, though in music, nothing is overtly maths, but fundamentally, I think it is, because it's based on frequencies. It's all maths. It's just you're dealing with it in another way.
No, got it, Jack. This is something that's interesting. I'll just dig it up for sure. Another thing that I was going to ask you was, okay. So, Jack, I think I've come to an end of most of the questions. Now that it's conclusion time, there are some standard questions that I kind of have, which is, now you spoke about, just going back, you told that, uh, you definitely are sold on the idea, or you definitely see potential of having, if you're having 125 in-person students, you see there should be no problems in having 350 online students. And you said right now
Yeah,
probably digitally you're not up there. It could be due to finances and stuff like that, but that's temporary.
yeah.
But what is your vision for Performance Collective? What's your goal in terms of the number of students um, going ahead? Do you have anything like that? You have a goal to reach, a number to reach?
In the next 5 years, yes, I'm hoping to hit. We are hoping to hit a 500 number,
Got it.
but and a big chunk of that 500 is expected
Online.
from online.
Got it.
But also, apart from the software, the other second level is having the instructors to, enough talent to be able to handle that as well.
Got it. Got it, Jack.
Both are there as a
Have
challenge.
you kind of figured out a method to getting there? You're working on it?
Working on it.
Okay.
It's a
You need to have a marketing team in place, at least digital marketing and stuff like that, I believe.
we have one person who looks after the digital marketing
Okay.
bit, but I think we'll need to scale it up to a much larger scale, a much more professional level of
Got it. Got it. Got it, Jack.
engagement.
And you're looking to do that in-house, or you're looking to outsource it to experts?
I am looking to outsource it to experts.
Okay, fine. I think the reason I asked you was just to see, what's your thought process, because a lot of people that I've spoken to seem to have the same approach towards it. Because, if you want to have an in-house marketing team, you need to have somebody capable and knowledgeable with experience leading that. And most of them are running their own marketing companies. And sometimes it's easier to outsource such things because it's also leaner on you. You don't have to you can it's like a plug and play. If you think it's not working, you can unplug, and then you can go on to somebody else who can do that. But got it. The bigger theme or the big picture is that you're definitely looking at online as the major source of your revenue, or a chunk of your students majority of your students are going to be online out of 500.
Yes.
It's not that it's new for you. You've already seen a peak of 450. But those 450, the only difference is going to be they were in person, but this is going to be online. So I think that's the only difference. And probably one last light question. You said you in the start you spoke about you compared Gurgaon to Bangalore, saying Whitefield is probably something like that in Bangalore. I was like wondering, oh, okay, fine. So were you in Bangalore for some time? Like where?
Bangalore was one of the cities that I opened offices in during my stint with. Yes, Rockschool. So I visited Bangalore many times over. So that's where the connection is.
Okay, got it.
I have a few relatives in Bangalore as well.
Okay, so great.
Once or twice I've come over to see them as well. So it's a beautiful city. So
yeah, except for traffic.
Well, when you have one long road connecting one end of the city to the other, it's inevitable, right? it's the same problem Bombay has, except that in Bombay it's fixed by the sea. Now they're trying to build little circles around it.
And Rockschool has a campus in Bangalore, even as of today.
Rockschool, yes, it has. Rockschool is a testing. It's a exam board.
Got it.
So it works with a lot of schools in Bangalore.
Now, okay. For individuals looking to learn music, what place would you recommend for them in Bangalore, Jack?
Bangalore, there are a lot of schools as such.
Okay.
There are a lot of schools and teachers. So Rockschool is per se not a school.
Got it.
I mean, that's why they changed the name as well to RSL Awards, so that there's no. So it's just like Trinity. Like Trinity is not a school.
It's a certifying board or something like that.
It's like, it's like CBSE. They make a syllabus. You try to pass their exam.
Got it, Jack. Jack, if there are parents watching, if they want to have their kids join, because most of them do not have any knowledge about music, right? What are the things to consider before enrolling your kid into a music school?
Depending on the age.
Okay.
The first thing to understand, it's a 3 to 4 year process.
Okay.
Right. So if it's your first instrument, right? If you unless the child is very particularly interested in a instrument, right? You might want to wait till they're 7 before you actually start formal training.
7 years. Okay.
Yes. The kind of training that professional schools like us give,
Got it.
right? The one-on-one, so which are instrument specific training.
Right.
Unless the child is showing an unusual amount of interest, in which case you, of course, come with the child to the instructor or school to check them further out. But till 7, because see, these instruments are made with adult hands in mind.
Right.
Right. So, you don't want to start too early and have an aversion developed with the child. So, you got to be careful that it is hard. It is hard for anybody.
Right.
Right. So, you don't want to. So, if it's about, I want my child to learn music, though, the child is not particularly saying, I want to learn this or that, and you're wait till they're 7. Right? Keyboards still work a little earlier, but otherwise it's safer to wait till 7. You don't need to, before that, the most important thing is what's in their environment, which means, are you listening to music?
Right.
If you listen to music, your child will listen to music.
Right.
Right. A lot of times people come and say, yeah, I do listen to music. When I ask them, where do you listen to music? Or at parties, and that's not listening to music.
Right.
I'm talking about, see, if I ask you, do you play chess?
Right.
It means, do you play chess regularly at your home?
Right.
Right. Do you watch movies? Right. There's no, so when we say, do you listen to music, means do you actually put music on and listen to it an hour during the day?
Right.
Of your liking. Right. Particularly. So you're going to have to do that kind of things to really, if you want your child to develop an interest for something, they tend to do what you do.
Got it.
So you simply saying it will not work. If you have an interest in music, you go to concerts or you listen to music regularly, trust you me, you'll see the effect coming automatically.
Got it. Got it.
But don't be surprised if by 6, 7 they come and tell you that I want to learn this.
Okay.
Right? So short of that, there is nothing much you can do at that point. Don't force anything is my first advice. Don't force anything. It has to, because at that age they can't, like a guitar. Kids at 6, unless they're very adamant, right? So I usually tell them to bring the child over. When I say the 7, I say, okay, can I meet the child? So I spend 5 minutes with the child with the parent not in the room. Right? And the level of interest, independence, because a lot of times it pains the fingers. And you're going to tell a 6-year-old child that, no, keep playing. Pain is part of it. No, it's not going to work. It's not going to work.
Right.
But there are some who do. Right. But then in those chances, you go with your child and make sure that it's the right environment as well. People who understand. Teaching young children is far more trickier than teaching older children.
Okay.
It takes far more teaching skills. It takes a different type of teaching skills.
Yeah.
Right? Because they live in a very different world than you or me do.
Yeah.
It's at about 7 or 8 that they start being in a slightly more adult mindset.
Yeah. Got it.
Right? So you need teachers who can get down to that level and communicate at that level. If you're a parent, you'll know. When the teacher meets your child, you will know whether that person knows how to communicate with the child or not. That's why I said take your child and go meet them.
Got it. Okay.
Right? If they can't communicate right at the interaction level, chances are they're not going to be able to teach them well either. You'll see it immediately.
Got it, Jack. Very interesting.
I'm sorry, have I gone away from your question?
No, you did not. I think I got the answer.
Question?
No, you did not. I think you concluded it by giving a summary, because you say that, just correct me if I'm wrong. This is what I understood. Take the kid to the teacher, and then you'll see the way the teacher is going to interact with the kid, and then you will know whether that's the right teacher or not. And
Yeah. So that's for the younger ages. For the older ages, make sure they understand that it's a long process.
right,
It's going to take 2 to 3 years for you to reach
right,
hobby level playing skills. For your first instrument, if you're young,
got it,
even if
got
you're
it,
old, it will take two to. If it's your first instrument, means you're learning music as well
right,
as you're learning an instrument.
got it,
Your second instrument becomes easier because then you're not learning music anew. You're
right.
learning how to control the second instrument,
Hmm.
right?
So same
So
thing.
2 to 3 years, yeah. Except so 2 to 3 years, it will take with an average of putting in 180 hours a year, roughly half an hour a day. If you're
Got it.
putting lesser than that, that virtuous cycle of putting in effort, seeing a little progress, which drives you to put again effort, never that circle never develops. If you're
Got it.
going to do less than half an hour a day.
Got it,
In
Jack.
most cases, that's been my experience. So then what happens is it's a spiral of, oh, I'm not getting anywhere.
Yeah.
I don't feel like going to class.
Yeah.
I'm no good at it. I quit.
Right. 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 Makes sense.
Or if I practice half an hour a day, first week is terrible. I'm not getting anywhere. Second week, I'm not. Third week, oh, I managed to do a little bit.
Little bit. Yeah.
Fourth week, I start practicing on my own because then I got a little bit more better. So that cycle takes 2 to 3 months to start. And then it takes about 3 years for you to reach where you would say at this rate, reach hobby level playing skills. Good, which means you're learning it fundamentally properly, like you should learn English, let's say. When you learn English, you should not be straight away, okay, I'll just teach you how to ask for where's the toilet and how to
Yeah.
it might work for a very specific practice, but that's not the way you
Not
learn
the
a
way.
language,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
You got to know what alphabets are, you should know the grammar, so that going ahead, you do things with it, right?
Right. Right.
Right. So next time you want to go to market and ask for a tomato, you're not going to ask the teacher back. Now, how do I ask for a tomato?
Correct. Yeah.
Right. So yeah. So if you're learning music the proper way, which means it's going to stay with you for life, reaching a hobby level playing will take 2 to 3 years.
Got it.
So look for a teacher who has experience, has at least a grade 8 level if you're looking for Western music.
Okay. Grade 8 level. Got it.
Yeah, at least a grade 8 level, has teaching experience, meet up with them,
Right.
and know that the best teachers and the best performers I've met in my life are the humblest ones.
Right. Got it.
So, I mean, if you want one sharp way of look for how much they have on
Yeah.
paper and how much humility they have. It's
Yeah.
a fair good.
Yeah. Grade 8 on the paper, and then how they come across and how much they promise or something like that. Got it. And one just two more questions. One is choosing a teacher. When parents do not have a music background, but they wish for their kids to get into music for the reasons that you said, not for anything else, but they're learning maths, let them also learn music. How do they choose an instrument, Jack? What
the onus of it, I always say that it should be left to the child.
Okay. What are the
So that
how do you identify what the child wants?
The child should say, this is what I want to learn.
Oh, okay.
At pre 6 or 7, where probably that does not exist, the standard is keyboard. Because it
that's
doesn't
what I was
hurt
coming.
the fingers.
Got it.
It's very easy and quick to make sense of it.
Got it.
It's a good place to get your foot in. And a lot of these kids will, that by the time they're 7 or 8, may stick with that, go to piano or change. But however, none of that training would go to waste. because they would have
Got it.
learnt music
Music.
through a very easily accessible medium.
Got
But
it.
ahead of that age, you have to make sure that when the going gets tough, the child does not feel like saying it wasn't my choice to start with,
Right. Got it.
right? Because different instruments provide different levels of difficulties, and each person will have different, but it's going to be there. Some
Right.
will struggle with sense of time, some will struggle with sense of pitch, some will
Right.
struggle with being relaxed while playing, some will struggle with the violin, different struggles, finding notes,
Right.
guitar, different struggles. So it'll all be there,
Right.
whether it comes immediately up front or later.
Right.
So you want to make sure that the responsibility is taken
Right.
by the learner,
Got it.
right? Because then the stickativity is also great.
Got it.
And as long as there are times there are learners, teenagers who have switched their instruments midway, and when their parents come to say, but we've invested so much, I tell them, has he been working hard? They say, yeah. I said, then don't worry, because it's not that anything's going to waste.
Right.
It's part of life. You do something, and sometimes doing a thing you learn that this is not what I want.
Correct. Yeah.
And I said, and that's healthy.
Exactly.
And that's healthy to make that. As I said, let him switch.
Yeah.
Let him switch to something else now, right? Because there's no point in forcing him to do this. His learning with this is over, but he worked hard and he's gotten everything he should have. So, and I said, now don't worry, let him switch. Because if it was out of lack of effort, I would have said, you know what, sit him down and have a talk about why he wants to do this in the first place. Right?
Right.
But if they've been working hard, don't worry, let him switch. Life is like that. You have to.
You figure out what you want and what you
not
don't
all
want
paths are
by
straight.
doing stuff.
And each step of that process informs you more, right?
Right.
So if I didn't walk down the path of trying to be a performer for a while, I wouldn't know that I didn't want.
Yeah.
It wasn't something. I mean, it wasn't as attractive to me as it seemed like when I was a teenager.
Yeah. Right. Great. So, Jack, just a concluding question. What is, probably this is a question I must have asked earlier, but, we've spoken around Performance Collective and everything. But, for people wondering, what is Performance Collective and what are the instruments you teach? Some basic FAQs that you come across for people who might be interested to, check out Performance Collective. If you want to add, please, over to you.
Performers Collective School of Music is a school for learning Western contemporary and Western classical music.
Right.
We teach individually only. We teach right from absolute scratch, beginner levels, which we call foundation, to intermediate levels and to professional levels as well.
Okay.
Right. So you can, and they have different class structures and free structures, etc., depending on where you're at.
Right.
So we teach all ages. We don't have our teachers are trained to handle, are adept at handling whether you're a level or you're a young chap looking at, our teachers are well equipped with teaching you. Individual lessons only we do. Music theory is a big part of our teaching as well. And like you must have noticed earlier, our target is not to teach you songs, but give you all the skills that you can go learn as many songs as you. Of course, we teach you songs as well because we have to teach you how to apply them. But the primary idea is to enable you to do things, and hopefully that music stays with you for life. Which we believe that learning one song after the other is not going to do it, because you then forever need somebody to, help you parrot. That's what I would call it at best. We teach on campus at our Gurgaon location as well as online. We have 15 specialist teachers. So if you choose an electric guitar specialist teacher will be teaching you. Same for classical guitar or violin, keyboard, piano, Western vocals, drums, and violin. For online lessons or on-campus lessons, you can contact us through our website, which is performerscollective.in. And we'll be happy to get back to you. And if you're a teacher looking for
Got it. All the fee structures and
All the
everything is
information
available
that
on
you
the
need is
website.
available there. And if you write to us, we'll be happy to send it to you as well. And if you need to talk to us, just leave a message and we'll get right back to you.
Sorry, you were about to say
Oh,
about
I said
teachers. Please
there are
continue.
teachers out there who, after listening to me, feel you're a good fit here. Please do feel free to connect with us. Always happy to talk to musicians and educators.
It was a pleasure talking to you. There was so much that I learned. Yeah, a lot of insights. We could probably have easily another couple of podcasts. I definitely have so much questions to ask you, deep dive. But yeah, probably after the first publishing, we could probably meet again for the second season, subject to your availability. And yeah, thank you so much, Jack. Yeah, thanks for taking your time out. Yeah, thank you.